Back in 2024, there was a feud. A beef so intense and widely talked about that it was basically just like the big thing to talk about, like all over the internet. Basically, back when the whole Kendrick and Drake feud was happening, I had no idea what was really going on. I barely knew anything about Drake other than like that he was a big pop rap artist who made songs like Hotline Bling and God's Plan. And when it came to Kendrick, I basically knew nothing about the guy other than like he had multiple albums in the Rate Your Music top albums of all time chart. Uh, so yeah, my knowledge about them not expertise by any means. This was not something that I was paying attention to. You know, the whole feud, not something I was like really into. I didn't personally like listen to music by either artist, and yet when the massive hit "Not Like Us" dropped, even I like, heard about it and I saw it being talked about everywhere, and that was kind of crazy. So it was then that I was tempted to look deeper into the topic, to find out more, to see what was going on. I even considered like the concept of doing something like similar to what this video is back then, but didn't have a YouTube channel and I never got around to doing it. And well, now I have it, so here we are. Although the title is like metal fan listens to every Drake and Kendrick album for the first time, I'm not entirely new to hip hop as a genre, and I just want to talk a little bit about my knowledge here, which is quite limited, but it isn't nothing. I've listened to some hip hop. I have a few artists and groups that I like: Death Grips, Lil Yachty, Scapegoat Wax, a little bit of Wu-Tang Clan. Specifically, I've heard the first album. I haven't heard their other stuff, but that first album is good. I like Gorillaz. They do a bit of hip hop sort of stuff. Alongside some more like rock style stuff as well. They're a bit of like a bit of everything sort of band. And Clipping. Those are like the artists and groups that come to mind when it comes to like my experience, my what I listen to in the hip hop sort of genre. So by no means am I an expert, but I have listened to some. That being said, I've never done a deep dive into the genre. And I certainly haven't heard a lot of the classics and what I imagine fans would call like the must-hear albums that everyone should check out if they want to get into hip hop. I haven't done that. You know, there's a lot of the big albums that like maybe I've heard of but I've never listened to. So that's worth taking into consideration. So, considering how big these two artists are and how big the feud between them was, I thought that this could be a really interesting place to gain some more knowledge and experience, to find some new music to listen to as well. I also thought that this would just be a fun topic for a video, you know, as a way to give my sort of outsider's perspective on the whole thing, Drake and Kendrick as artists and their music. And while the video is technically about Drake versus Kendrick, I'm not really taking it that seriously. It's more just like a fun comparison, rather than me like genuinely like making a big deal about it. So whether you're a massive fan of Drake or Kendrick or both, hopefully you'll be able to get some enjoyment out of this video. So here's the plan. I will listen to every single Drake and Kendrick album in order of release, alternating between the two artists until we reach 2024, where I will take a slight detour from the albums to check out the singles involved in the beef, and then I'll go back to the albums released after 2024 and after the beef. And then we'll talk about those as well. And then at the end, I'll have reviewed and talked about all of the albums and those singles as well. And That's the video. That's the idea. Before we start, I will clarify right now that I'm only looking at solo albums, so I won't be including Drake's collab albums with 21 Savage and Party Next Door. I'm also not really looking into mixtapes here, with one exception. This means I'm not looking at projects like Comeback Season and More Life by Drake, or Training Day and C4 by Kendrick, or K. Dot, the name he released those under. The exception to this is Drake's If You're Reading This It's Too Late, because from what I've heard, that seems to be like one of his most popular and well-regarded releases. Unlike most of the other mixtapes, which seems to be like a little more divisive, and it seems like for the most part the mixtapes are kind of like considered not to be like as good as their albums, with again that one exception. So I thought I didn't really like feel right to exclude what might have been like one of the artist's best works, since we're doing like this comparison. So I decided not including most of the mixtapes, but I will include that one. With all of that out of the way, we're basically ready to start. I will just make it clear going into this that I have no intentional bias ahead of time. I have heard a couple of songs by both artists, but mostly in passing. I'm really going into this whole thing with almost no knowledge about either of them. I don't even really remember much about the stuff that I have heard from them before. Like, I know I might have heard like a little bit of Drake on the radio, maybe some Kendrick as well, and I've had a song or two like recommended to me here and there, but I've never really gone out of my way to like just sit down and listen to their music. I also want to say I'm not judging like Drake or Kendrick as people here. I'm just reviewing the music, not the artists themselves. So that's not going to like factor into my opinions on these albums. So keep that in mind. And without further ado, let's begin. Drake's debut album, Thank Me Later, is a pretty fun and enjoyable listening experience in my opinion. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to feel going into this, but I left with a sense of being pleasantly surprised. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to enjoy this project as much as I did, and although I don't think it's the greatest album of all time or anything, it's a collection of mostly solid tracks that make up an overall experience that was just a fun time. My favourite track from this album was probably Over, for its really cool jazzy vibe that makes it like stand out from the rest of the track list here. The songwriting is very engaging and the energy on this track feels great. My only criticism is that I felt like there were a couple of vocal deliveries that could have been a bit better, but it's not like a major issue by any means. The other big highlight here for me was Find Your Love. The beat sound was really cool with this beat crusher effect that makes it really stand out. The vocals are really nice, it has an interesting and engaging progression, and the piano here sounds amazing. Now I'll go over each song on this album individually and talk a little bit about my thoughts. We start off this album with Fireworks featuring Alicia Keys. This song has a really nice opening piano part. The fireworks sound effects set the mood of this song and the album very nicely. Drake sounds pretty good, and I like the flow and sound of his voice. I felt that the transition into the first chorus could have been a little smoother, but the chorus itself sounds beautiful, and Alicia Keys has a really nice voice. There are a few moments in Drake's vocals where I felt it maybe could have flowed a little better, but nothing major. The outro also sounds fantastic, and I think this is a really great opening track to the album. The opening drum beat on Karaoke is cool. The vocals aren't the most impactful for me, but they're alright. There's this one muffled drum sound you can hear like throughout this song that sounds really cool to me. And while the songwriting is a little basic, it has a great vibe. I really enjoy that. The Resistance is up next, and I thought the intro had a really nice vibe, but that it could have flowed a little better. The opening rap part is pretty good, the effects on the sung vocals here are really nice, and the chorus is cool. There's some pretty impactful lyrical content here as well, but I thought there were a couple of bad lines too, but mostly good, just, not perfect. Over, as I mentioned before, as being probably my favorite track, has this jazzy intro, like I said, that feels really impactful and fun. Love the vibe it has when the drums are introduced, the beat feels good. The song has some vocal deliveries that aren't my favorite, but it's mostly good. The songwriting is pretty engaging, and the energy feels great here. The opening drum beat for Show Me a Good Time sounds cool. The piano is really nice. The vocal flow is pretty good, and the use of record scratches adds a lot to the vibe. I also thought that the chorus here was great. There is a repeating vocal sample on this song though that isn't my favorite thing in the world. I don't love that, but it doesn't ruin the song for me or anything. Up All Night features Nicki Minaj, who I'm aware of, and I've heard of a little bit of her vocals here and there, but I'm not an expert on her music or anything. The opening vocals are alright, but when the beat kicks in, they get much better. Speaking of, the beat here sounds amazing. The drums are especially great. I think this song has a really cool atmosphere, and while Nicki's inclusion starts off a little clunky, it does get pretty good over time as it develops. The lyrical content here wasn't the most interesting to me, but it's not bad by any means. Then we have Fancy featuring T.I. and Swizz Beatz, two artists I'm not at all familiar with. The opening beat is pretty fun. It has a pretty good flow from Drake. The beat remains quite enjoyable throughout the song, and T.I. delivers his verse very well. There was a muffled effect used during the second half of this track, which sounds really cool, so I wanted to mention that. My issue with this song is that it has this thing of constantly repeating the phrase, "You fancy, huh?" which gets a little annoying after a while, if I'm being honest. Shut It Down features The Dream, who I haven't heard of before personally. It has this sort of sparse-sounding beat that sounds quite nice, and The Dream's stuttered vocals sound really cool during the bridge. The vocals here, for the most part, don't feel like anything special to me, but they're alright. I think the chorus could have been a bit more impactful, but it doesn't sound bad, and while I don't think this song was mind-blowing or anything, it's a decent track. An artist by the name of Young Jeezy features on our next song, Unforgettable. The opening vocals and keys here are beautiful. Drake's vocal flow sounds good, the drum beat sounds good too. I felt that the lyrical content here was a little inconsistent though, and I'm not really the biggest fan of Young Jeezy's vocal performance here, to be honest. Light Up featuring Jay-Z, who I've heard a little of before, through songs he's featured on, has this slow, atmospheric intro that sounds really cool. The drum beat hits hard, Drake's flow is pretty cool, and the sparse style of production sounds really great here. Jay-Z sounds very good here too, although he does make this one dog pun in the line, "'Cause you fucking around with me and my dogs" is far-fetched. Which, for me, is just a little too goofy for me to take seriously. It's just kind of silly, I'm sorry. Then we have the song Miss Me, featuring Lil Wayne, who I have heard of him, but I don't think I've ever really listened to him. The beat stands out with an interesting vibe, the flow is pretty good, the drums are impactful and cool, and the bass sounds especially good during the outro. While I think Lil Wayne has a decent flow here, the lyrical content wasn't great in my opinion. Next is CeCe's Interlude. The reverb on the drums sound pretty good, and while this track is very simple, it still sounds pretty cool. It's a fine interlude, nothing really that special, but I did want to mention the guitar solo at around 1 minute 30, which sounds really cool. I thought that was a great inclusion as somebody who loves guitar solos. The beat on the track Find Your Love sounds really cool. The bit crush effect makes it stand out. The opening vocals are really nice. It has a interesting, engaging progression to it. The piano sounds great. I found the lyrical content to be kind of simple, but it fits very well for what this song is trying to do. I also wanted to mention the bit crushed vocals specifically at around 3 minutes and 4 seconds. They sound so cool, and honestly, I wish there was more of that used in this song. I think it's really cool. Then we have Thank Me Now. Drake's flow sounds great here, and the strings are really cool, although I've personally found the chorus to be a little underwhelming. We finish the album with Best I Ever Had. The beat sounds cool, the drums here are especially good, and while there were some vocal moments I wasn't really vibing with, I thought the song was mostly quite good. My least favourite song was definitely Unforgettable, mostly because I just wasn't really vibing with Jeezy's vocals on this track. I'm not sure exactly why, it just weren't working for me for some reason. The lyrical content also feels a little inconsistent in terms of quality, as I mentioned, and while it does have some redeeming qualities, like some really beautiful vocals and keys during the intro, a good drum beat, nice vocal flow from Drake, I still don't love this song. It's not bad, but it's not great either. It's just alright. Overall, though, this is a pretty fun album. I think it could be better, for sure, but I enjoyed it for what it is. I had some criticisms from this project, but at the end of the day, I did enjoy my time listening to it. There is room for improvement and development, for sure. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he evolves his style going forward after this album, as you look into his later stuff. It's like a lot of artists, you look at their first album and maybe it's good, maybe it's not so good, but it's their first album, and at the end of the day, a lot of people take their time to really find their sound and to nail down what they're doing. So I'm definitely going to keep an open mind to see where Drake goes from here. But anyway, thought this was a pretty good first album, and I would give this project a 7.5 out of 10. An absolutely fantastic debut album. Kendrick Lamar's Section 80 or Section dot 80. I'm just gonna say Section 80 and just assume you're not supposed to pronounce the full stop. Anyway, it has so many incredible moments. I loved my time listening to it. This is a really solid project with very few dips in quality, and even those few dips aren't anything major, just a couple slightly weaker tracks I felt could have been even better than they already were. My favourite track from this album was probably either ADHD, Rigor Mortis, or High Power, all of which are absolutely amazing songs in their own ways. ADHD for its really cool synths, great vocal flow, incredible songwriting, and amazing vibes. Rigor Mortis also has an amazing flow, the bass here sounds incredible, and the looping horns are really cool. Then there's High Power, with its distorted vocals, really cool instrumental, and really fun vibe. Other highlights for me here were Fuck Your Ethnicity, Hold Up, No Makeup, Her Vice, Poe Man's Dreams, His Vice, Keisha's Song, Her Pain, Kush and Corinthians, His Pain, Blow My High, Members Only, and Absol's Outro. Speaking of Fuck Your Ethnicity, that is the opening track for this album, and it starts out with this spoken word intro that's quite interesting. It really it grabs my attention and creates a great atmosphere. This song has really good vocal flow, the piano sounds really interesting and cool, and it makes for an impactful first impression. This album gets off to a great start with some really interesting creative lyrical content. The second song here is Hold Up, which has a really nice, smooth instrumental. The drums feel great, the song feels really engaging and fun to listen to, the chorus is cool, the vocals sound amazing. I thought there were some very good uses of rhyming here. I really liked the rhyming on this song. ADHD, one of my favorite tracks, has really cool synths during the intro that kind of reminded me a little of PS2 sound effects. Maybe that, I don't know if that's just me, but that's what came to my mind. The vocal flow here is great, and the song has these really cool sort of underwater sounding drums almost. It has incredible songwriting. It feels both exciting and somehow also chill at the same time. I'm not sure how to describe it, but the vibes here are just amazing. Colin Monroe features on No Makeup, Her Vice, and I thought the vocals were really cool on this track with some interesting effects during the chorus. The piano sounds really nice here. There's a cool occasional usage of distortion on Kendrick's vocals. Very engaging lyrical content, a really cool bridge, and the song has this interesting like back and forth with the vocals during verse 2 that I really liked. Tammy's song, Her Evils, has a cool I don't know how to say it, but like blippy sounding synth. The drums feel powerful and impactful, and I thought the reverb was used really well here. I'm not the biggest fan of this chorus. It's kind of basic lyrically speaking, and it does repeat a little too often for me. Next is Chapter 6. This song has a cool, smooth intro that establishes a great vibe. I really like the repeating background vocal sample on this track, and while I think the spoken word section distracts me a little from the vibe, I get what it's going for, and it doesn't ruin the track for me by any means. Ronald Reagan Era, His Evils, is the next song, and it has a really cool instrumental during the intro. It has a very different vibe and makes this track stand out. The drums here sound great, Kendrick's vocals are really good, and the refrain of this track sounds fantastic. It has a really great flow. My only complaint is that the whoop-de-whoop part sounds like a little clunky and awkward to me. I didn't love that part of the song, but it doesn't like ruin the track for me by any means. Then we have Po Man's Dream, His Vice, featuring GLC, who I haven't heard of before. This song has a really cool vibey intro. Kendrick's flow is incredible on this song. The beat is great, and GLC's inclusion feels really naturally implemented. It's very cool. This song also has an amazing atmosphere to it. The Spiteful Chant featuring Schoolboy Q, another artist I haven't heard of before, has horns during the intro that I really like. They set the vibe well. The drums are really cool here. I love the hi-hats and the cymbals especially. The vocal flow is pretty cool, and while the lyrical content wasn't my favorite from this project, it's certainly not bad or anything. Schoolboy Q has a great flow, but I feel like his lyrics could be improved. Chapter 10 has a strange but fun and like jumpy beat. It's a fun little interlude, very enjoyable, but not incredible or anything. An artist called Astrobot features on the track Keisha's song, Her Pain. This track has some really nice melodic plucks. The drums sound great, Kendrick sounds amazing here, the feature is really cool, and it adds a lot to the vibe. I also thought this song had some really impactful and engaging lyrical content. Then we have the track Rigor Mortis. The vocal flow here sounds amazing. I really like the bass on this track. The looping horns sound cool, and there's this really cool stop-start instrumental around 2 minutes and 5 seconds, which feels really fun and impactful. I also thought that the fast rapping section near the end was really cool. Kush and Corinthians, His Pain, featuring BJ the Chicago Kid, has a really vibey intro. The great sounding drums and the bass sounds especially good on this song. I found the lyrical content to be interesting, and I thought the songwriting was really cool. BJ the Chicago Kid's voice also sounds beautiful on this track. Blow My High, Members Only, has this slow beat, which is a really cool vibe. The deeper vocals add a lot to the atmosphere of this song, and Kendrick's flow here sounds great as always. I found this song to be very relaxing and engaging. It's just such a good song. Yeah. Absol's Outro is the next song, and it has this incredible cymbal focused intro. I absolutely love the jazzy vibes here. The vocals are amazing, they flow really well and fit the instrumental so nicely. The way the song progresses is fantastic, and the drumming is so good. It really stands out from the rest of the album. The instrumental outro is beautiful, and the spoken word part here feels both fitting and appropriate. Then we end the album with High Power. the distorted vocals during the intro grabbed my attention immediately. This song has a really cool instrumental, the drums sound great, and it feels really vibey. The vocal flow is fantastic, and the whole song is just really fun to listen to. My least favourite from this album was probably Tammy's song Her Evil, mostly because of the chorus, which I felt was a little too basic lyrically speaking and repeated a little too often for me. Other than that, though, it's still a really enjoyable track. I just think there were a couple, very small areas for improvement here. Another weaker moment on this project for me was the Spiteful Chant. Again, it's not bad or anything, and it's actually still great. But I did feel that some of the lyrical content on this track could have been better. It's not bad, generally speaking, but there were a few lines I didn't care for. Overall, though, this is an amazing project with so many great things to love about it, and while I did have some critiques for it, they weren't really anything that bad. I wouldn't say this album is quite perfect, but it's really not far off. With a couple of tweaks, I would absolutely be happy to give it a perfect 10 out of 10 score. But as it is, this album is a 9.5 out of 10 for me. We come back to Drake for his second album, Take Care, and I think it's a great project which really didn't need to be 80 minutes long. I really felt the length of this album as I got to the last couple of tracks, and that's not to say that I didn't enjoy most of what this album had to offer, because I absolutely did, but the level of quality here does gradually decline over time. Meaning that while I was loving the first half of this project, and I didn't feel like it was going to be too long, when the weaker tracks at the end were playing, I felt like I was there for much longer than I actually was. Now, that sounds really negative, but I don't want it to seem like I hated this album, because I simply didn't. It's just that when you have such a long runtime, you need to keep the quality consistent, and even if the weaker songs are still good, the fact that they aren't as good as the beginning of the album makes the runtime feel like it starts to really drag, or at least that's my experience. My favourite track here was between Headlines, Lord Knows, and Marvin's Room / Buried Alive interlude. These are all incredible songs which I absolutely loved listening to for very different reasons. Headlines has an incredible vibe and really impactful drums. Lord Knows has an amazing beat and the choir sounds amazing. Marvin's Room / Buried Alive interlude has a beautiful atmosphere with a really immersive and relaxing sound, and to me, it has a it feels very emotionally impactful. Other highlights here include Over My Dead Body, Crew Love, and the title track itself, Take Care. This album starts with the aforementioned Over My Dead Body, which has this really nice opening piano. The muffled drums during the intro create a great atmosphere, and the intro vocals sound amazing. I love the effects used on them. Drake has a pretty great flow on this track, and I love the chorus. The song's vibe is just amazing. Shot for me has very impactful bass, generally really nice vibe, great vocals, and the song's progression is great. I love how the drums develop especially. I also wanted to mention the track's really cool drum-focused outro. That part was so good. The synths during the intro of Headlines are fun, and the track has a really good vocal flow. The drums here sound impactful, and it's an absolute vibe of a song. It's just really enjoyable. Crew Love featuring The Weeknd, who I have obviously heard of, but to be honest, I never really looked into him much. I've just heard of him from the radio. Anyway, this song has this interesting bouncy drum moment that repeats through the song, and it sounds really cool. I wanted to point that out. The transition into the melodic opening section from the intro here sounds really nice, and The Weeknd sounds amazing on this song. The beat also sounds really creative and interesting. The title track, Take Care, features Rihanna, who you will not be surprised to hear that I do know of. I've never listened to her albums or anything, but I know of her. I do know. Anyway, this song has an interesting sound and progression. This track stands out from the other songs on the album so far. The drums hit hard, The vocal flow feels great. There's a really good amount of energy here. The vibe is amazing and fun, and this track just has great songwriting all around. From what I understand, Marvin's Room and the Buried Alive interlude are supposed to be like joined together as like one big song, although depending on like which version of the track list you're looking at, they might be listed as two separate tracks. So that's a little bit confusing, but I digress. The Marvin's Room section of this track has a really vibey intro. The sort of minimalist approach here makes this track stand out. The atmosphere is beautiful and it has a very relaxing and immersive sound. I also thought it was quite emotionally impactful. Then we have the Buried Alive interlude part, which surprisingly features Kendrick Lamar, so that was a bit of a surprise to me. Anyway, this part has an amazing vibey beat. Kendrick's vocal flow here is amazing, and it has a great atmosphere. Underground Kings is up next, and it has a really fun instrumental. The vocals flow great, and while I felt like there were some awkward lyrics, they were mostly good. The bass sounds really cool here, and the progression is very good. Will Be Fine features an artist called Birdman, who I haven't heard of either. I'm saying that a lot, aren't I? I just keep saying that for like everybody we come across. Yeah. Anyway, the drums feel impactful, and the fun vibe here is really cool. The distortion on the vocals during the chorus is really good too. My only issues are that I felt like a couple of the vocal deliveries here were a bit awkward, and in my opinion, Birdman doesn't really add much vocally to this track. Honestly, I feel like you just like cut him out of the song entirely, and nothing would really change. Up next is Make Me Proud, which features Nicki Minaj again. This track has a fun energy, the beat feels great, and while Nicki's verse isn't my favourite or anything, her singing does sound quite nice here. Lord Knows featuring Rick Ross, someone I think I've heard of before but I'm not really familiar with, appears to use flanging during the intro and occasionally like throughout the song, which makes it sound quite unique and stand out. I love the explosive transition into the main part of this song. The beat is amazing, I really enjoy the drums here, and the background choir sounds really cool, and the vocal flow is great. Up next we have Cameras / Good Ones Go interlude. The beat starts out enjoyable, but not particularly like complex or memorable. It does have a good vibe though. There's some good usage of samples here, and the instrumental switch up when it transitions into Good Ones Go is nice. This is a fun track, but I feel like it could be more engaging. Doing It Wrong's instrumental has a nice vibe, the vocals are relaxing and pleasant to listen to, and the harmonica inclusion is really cool. My only issue with this is that there's not really much here in terms of progression. The Real Her features Lil Wayne, who we've talked about before, and Andre 3000, who I've definitely heard of but I don't really know anything about. This song has an enjoyable vibe, although the beat is a little basic for me. I feel like we've had like 3 simple and slow songs in a row, and it's just a bit too much of like the same vibe in like one sort of drawn out section. This part of the album like definitely felt like it was dragging to me. Lil Wayne's verse on this track is decent, but nothing special in my opinion. There's cool usage of reverse drums around 4 minutes and 12 seconds, and I really wish there was a little more of this to give the song more of a unique identity compared to the rest of the album. Then there's Andre 3000's verse, which is decent, I quite liked it. Look What You've Done has some nice piano during the intro, a good vocal flow, and the lack of drums in the first minute and a half makes it stand out a little. When the drums are introduced, they sound pretty cool, and there's some good use of panning here. HYFR, Hell Yeah Fucking Right, features Lil Wayne again. Drake's flow feels a little awkward to me at times on this track. The chorus wasn't particularly engaging or interesting to me, and while the vibe wasn't bad, I just don't feel like it really did much for me. There were some awkward lyrics too, and I just couldn't really get into this song. The next track is Practice. which has a decent vibe and beats. I thought it was enjoyable, but nothing really that special. Then the album finishes with The Ride, a song with a fun and creative beat, good vibe, and a vocal sample that sounds really nice. My only problem with it is that there isn't much of a progression here. My least favourite song on this album was definitely HYFR, Hell Yeah Fucking Right. As I said before, I couldn't really get into this track. It's not bad, but I wouldn't call it good either. I feel just kind of neutral about it. Other than that, though, everything else was genuinely good, just to like varying degrees. The Real Her and Practice were two other tracks I felt were a little weaker than the rest of this album, but I still think they're pretty decent songs, just not as good as the rest of the album. It also doesn't help here that there are a bunch of like slow and simple tracks one after another right at the end, and the album really did start to feel like it was dragging around that point of the track list. Overall, though, this album is good. It's very good, actually. The biggest issue I have with it is the pacing of the listening experience and how almost all the best songs are in the first half of the album, which leaves only the weaker tracks at the end. I really enjoyed a lot of what this album has to offer, but I don't know if I would want to like listen to the whole project from start to finish again, because it's just so much. And again, like I said, the quality isn't the most consistent, but that's just how I feel about it. I think if you were to cut a bunch of these songs, you would have a borderline masterpiece of an album. I can see it buried in here somewhere, but as it is, I guess we'll just have to settle for a really good album with some filler. Great stuff here, but it's not perfect. I would give this album an 8.4 out of 10. Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City is often considered a masterpiece, and even one of the greatest albums of all time. Now that I've listened to it, I can finally understand why. This is a project that absolutely blew me away several times as I listened to it, and by the time it was over, I felt like I had gone on like a powerful and engaging journey with so many incredible songs and moments. Everything on this album is just done perfectly. All of the different elements come together very nicely, and I really couldn't think of anything to criticize or complain about. It's just that good. My favorite song here was probably Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. This song is a 12-minute long masterpiece, which really didn't feel like it was that long because of how much I was enjoying it. And if you know anything about me, I'm an absolute sucker for any song above 10 minutes long, man. I love long songs so much, dude. Oh. Anyway, the first part here has some really beautiful piano and a fantastic beat. The lyrical content is excellent, the storytelling is engaging, and there are some really interesting moments and creative decisions here that I thought added so much to the song and the album as a whole. The second part is just as good with its beautiful background female vocals and an especially good flow from Kendrick. I want to say every single track on this album is a highlight, but if I was absolutely forced to narrow down the list a little, I would at least have to include Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, Backseat Freestyle, Money Trees, Good Kid, Mad City, Swimming Pools, Drank, Real, and Compton. I realize that still doesn't actually really narrow it down very much, but all of these songs are just amazing, man. They're just so good. The album opens with the track Shireen, aka Master Splinter's daughter. I wasn't expecting a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reference on this album, but I'm not complaining, hey, why not? This song has an immersive and intriguing intro, really nice synths and bass during the opening, a creative and unique beat, an incredible atmosphere, and it's just an amazing start to the album. Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe is the second track, and I thought it had a really cool instrumental. I love the synths here. The beat feels impactful, the vocals are amazing, it has some really engaging songwriting and a great song structure. I like the usage of these atmospheric hi-hats and claps too, and I thought the song had a really nice progression to it. I also wanted to mention the strings in the background, which sound beautiful. Then we have Backseat Freestyle with its really powerful bass and drums. This song has an insane amount of energy. The flow from Kendrick here is especially good, and the change in vocal style on verse 3 is really cool. It serves as a great change of pace. It's just an amazing song all around. The Art of Peer Pressure has a really smooth and beautiful instrumental. I love how it just kicks off, especially, and the bass here sounds incredible. The song structure is really interesting. The songwriting is very engaging, and I thought the storytelling here was really effective. Next up is Money Trees featuring J-Rock. This is definitely one of the Kendrick songs I've heard somewhere before. I recognize it definitely. It has a beautiful and impactful instrumental, catchy, memorable, and fun vocals, an amazing chorus, interesting and engaging lyrical content, and I thought J-Rock has a great verse on this song. He's not an artist I'm familiar with either, but he does a very good job here. You know what, actually, I think I'm just gonna, like, from here on out, I'm just gonna, like, say you should assume I'm not familiar with the featured artists, unless I specifically mention I do know them. So, just so I don't have to keep, like, mentioning that I don't know people. Anyway, Poetic Justice is the next track, and interestingly enough, this one features Drake. Kind of a reversal of how Drake had a track that featured Kendrick on his last album. This song has a smooth and vibey intro, the drums sound great, Kendrick's flow here is great as always, the chorus sounds really cool, I love the percussion during the chorus especially. Drake has an amazing verse on the song too, I really like his inclusion, and I thought this song has especially good lyrical content. Really, it's just, like, both artists, like, working perfectly together. I really like it. Then we have the first half of the album's title, Good Kid. I thought the instrumental here was amazing, the intro sounds cool, I love the instruments used here, and the vocals are incredible. This song has a really good vibe, it stands out from the rest of the track so far, and I thought the storytelling here was very interesting. Mad City is the logical next track, and this one features MC8. MC8. I'm gonna guess it's 8. Anyway, this song has an incredible instrumental. It feels really engaging and impactful. The vocals are amazing here. Both the vocals just and lyrics feel intense and engaging. The transition into part 2 of this track is abrupt, but it feels really effective. I thought the songwriting and structure were generally amazing. MC8 adds a lot to this track in his verse, and the ending part with the record scratches was really cool. Up next is Swimming Pools, Drank, which has a really cool atmosphere. The chorus sounds amazing, the instrumental is especially impactful, and the bridge here is a really cool moment on this track. I think I've definitely heard the chorus from this song somewhere before, but, like, I never knew where it was from, and I don't know, like, where I heard it. I recognize it from somewhere, I'm not sure. Then there's Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, which, as I said, was my favourite track, as I mentioned earlier. And yeah, it's just an amazing masterpiece in so many ways, but I pretty much said all I wanted to say about this song earlier, so we'll move on. The next track is Real, featuring Anna Wise. The intro to this song is beautiful. The atmosphere is so good on this track, and it has some really nice progression. The delivery of the line, "'Cause before you know it, everything's gone," in the chorus is extremely powerful and impactful. I love that part. The songwriting here is very engaging, and the introduction of saxophone near the end is beautiful. The song Compton features Dr. Dre, who I've heard of before, but I'm going to be honest, I only really know about him because of Beats headphones. and I've never even owned a pair of Beats headphones, I've just heard of them. Hell, I didn't even know he made music. I'm gonna come out right now and say it. I did not know he made music. I just thought he was a headphones creator or something. But I'm sure the hardcore hip hop fans are watching this, like, probably in just disbelief of my lack of knowledge, but there you have it. It is what it is. Anyway, the intro for this song is energetic and powerful. The instrumental here is really fun to listen to. The vocals are amazing, and it feels like the perfect end to the album. The more uplifting and positive vibe makes this track stand out, and it has a really beautiful and impactful outro. It's just fantastic. Overall, I am very glad I decided to check this out. I understand the hype, and I'm glad that I experienced this project for myself. Would I put it in my top 10, 25, or even 50 albums of all time? No, probably not. But that's not because this isn't a masterpiece. It's because there are just too many incredible albums out there to put on such a tiny list. You know, you've got millions, millions of albums out there, and it's like, I'm supposed to narrow this down to my top 10? What do you mean? That's crazy. So no matter like what you do, I feel like you have to like exclude so many albums that like feel deserving of like a top spot, but there are only so many spots to give out. So you know how it is. Anyway, I would say I absolutely understand why this would be somebody else's top 10. I totally get that. I can see that absolutely. And I will say that this has become one of my top hip hop albums of all time, specifically, at least. So that has to count for something, right? Anyway, this is an incredible album. I loved every second of it. Absolute perfection. This is a 10 out of 10 album for me. Nothing Was the Same is a pretty good album with a couple of significant dips in quality, including one genuinely bad song. I think the good stuff here can be honestly amazing at times, but the issue is that this isn't a particularly consistent project. This album has a couple of the best songs I've heard from Drake so far, but it also has some of his worst, and some in between. My favourite track from this album was definitely between Hold On, We're Going Home, Pound Cake / Paris Morton Music 2, Tuscan Leather, and Own It. Personally, I'm leaning more towards Hold On, We're Going Home for its beautiful vocals, very enjoyable vibe, fantastic drum fills, and how it progresses in a really cool way. Other highlights for me were Worst Behavior and Too Much, both of which were also amazing tracks. When this album is good, it's really good. Tuscan Leather is the first track here. The beat starts off simple but powerful. The high-pitched vocals in the background sound cool. The way the beat develops and progresses is incredible. There's a really cool usage of reverse drums around like halfway through the song, and Drake's vocal performance here is great. I also think this song has some amazing songwriting and a really beautiful outro. Next up is Furthest Thing, which is a track with a really nice instrumental. I love the sort of reversed sounding synths here. The beat is very enjoyable to listen to, and the switch up near the end is cool. My only criticism here is that I felt there were one or two awkward lyrics. Started From the Bottom is one of the songs that I have heard from Drake before on the radio back when it was like really big. To be honest, I didn't like the song back then, and I still don't really care for it now. I feel like the instrumental is a little too basic for me, and I find the chorus to be repetitive and kind of annoying. The drums do sound decent though. I don't really have any strong feelings about this song. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. It's just kind of there. It's fine, but I'm not really a fan personally. The beat on the song Wu-Tang Clan Forever has a cool vibe, and I like the vocals, but I didn't think they were anything special, to be honest. It's a song that's enjoyable to listen to, but it could have been better. Own It has an amazing atmosphere, and I like the sounds used during the intro. The beat is very creative and vibey, the vocals sound really nice here, and I thought this track really stood out from the others so far. Then we have Worst Behavior with its powerful and energetic opening beat that sounds really creative and interesting, and really impactful drums. The vocals feel intense and engaging, and I love the bass on this track. From Time featuring Gene Aiko has some piano that sounds really nice here. The melodies are beautiful, Gene Aiko's voice sounds great, and while the beat is simple, the vibe it creates is really good. The song has a great progression, and the more minimalist style here sounds really nice. Then we have Hold On, We're Going Home, featuring Majid Jordan, which I mentioned before, but now that I'm going through each track individually, I want to mention how much I enjoyed the fun, energetic, drum-focused intro on this track. And of course, then there's like all the other reasons I like this track, which I listed earlier. It's so good, so good. After that is Connect. I think the drums sound pretty cool on this track. The chorus is decent, and there's an instrumental section around 2 minutes 40 to 3 minutes 25 seconds, which sounds really cool. My issue with this song is that I felt the vocal deliveries were kind of awkward and clunky at times. I'm not really a huge fan of the lyrical content here. The language has a decently enjoyable beat and the vocal flow is good, but personally I felt like it had some clunky lyrics. For example, fuck going platinum, I look at my wrist and it's already platinum. I mean, it just sounds awkward when he says it. Anyway, I think the song is good, but it could be better. 305 to My City features Detail, and I didn't really like the song. I thought the vocals were awkward and clunky during the opening, and the instrumental feels a little unengaging to me. Then there's the repetitive and kind of annoying chorus and bridge, and the constant repeating of I get it is really annoying actually. I didn't like it. Thankfully, the next track, Too Much, is much better. It has a really nice atmospheric intro. Drake's flow sounds really good here. The song has a good amount of energy, and the chorus is really nice. Then there's Pound Cake / Paris Morton Music 2 featuring Jay-Z. I love the vibes and atmosphere of the intro. The beat is really nice. I like the background vocals, and the instrumental as a whole is beautiful. Jay-Z sounds great on this track. The transition to part 2 of the song is fantastic, and I absolutely love the piano in that section. My least favourite song on this project was definitely 305 to My City. I think this is Drake's worst song so far, and it's the first I've heard on my journey through his discography that I straight up disliked. As I mentioned before, the vocals feel awkward and clunky, the instrumental feels unengaging, the chorus and bridge weren't enjoyable to listen to for me, and I found the constant repeating of I Get It to be genuinely annoying. I just didn't like this track. Another weak point on this project for me was the massive hit, Started from the Bottom. I don't hate the track by any means, but I don't enjoy listening to it either. I just feel kind of neutral on it, to be honest. Overall, though, this album has a good amount of highlights, and those highlights are incredible. It's just a shame that some of these songs didn't click with me, but that's how it goes sometimes. If I could, I would cut Started from the Bottom, Connect, and 305 to My City from the album. I think without those weaker songs, this would be an infinitely better listening experience. Either way though, I can't deny that I enjoyed most of what I heard, and there is some really great stuff on it. Although not perfect, I think this album is mostly a really fun time. If I ever came back to this project again, I would just have to skip the few tracks I didn't care for. For me, this is an 8.2 out of 10. Drake's iconic mixtape, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, is a project I've heard about in the past, but now I'm finally checking it out for myself for the first time. I've seen many people call this Drake's best work, and I've got to say, I agree, at least up to this point in his discography. The first half of this release is basically perfect in my opinion. Everything feels like it comes together just right, and I love that listening experience. The quality of this project does start to dip not long after that though, and while I would say that the overwhelming majority of this mixtape is great or even amazing, those dips in quality are present and I can't just pretend they aren't. My favourite track here was probably Jungle for its beautiful and engaging instrumental, fantastic vocal performance, great atmosphere, and how, despite not being super complex, it managed to keep me fully engaged and interested from start to finish. Just an incredible song all around. Another contender for the top spot was 6 PM in New York. I love how great the energy on this track feels right from the start. I love how great the drums sound, and Drake's flow is really fun to listen to. Other highlights on this project for me were Legend, Energy, 10 Bands, Know Yourself, No Telling Madonna, 6 God, Star 6-7, and 6 Man. We start this mixtape with the song Legend, which has this intriguing sparse / minimal intro. The drums feel impactful and powerful when they kick in. The songwriting feels engaging despite not being particularly complex. I also thought this beat was really cool and creative towards the end. It has a great progression. The song Energy has an intro that grabbed my attention immediately. The beat here is really cool, and I love the moment where the drums reverse. There are some really cool creative choices in the production of this track. Drake's flow is fantastic here, and I think the song really lives up to the title. It has that energy. It really, it's so good. 10 Bands has some really nice sounding synths. The beat has a great feel to it, and I also thought the vocals had a fantastic energy to them. Know Yourself has a really cool deep atmosphere. The song doesn't have much high end in the beginning of the track, which is cool. The introduction of higher pitched synths for the chorus hits really hard, and the progression of the song is amazing. Next up is No Tellin'. The intro of this song sets up the atmosphere perfectly. It has another impactful and fun beat. The flow feels amazing on this track, and the vocal samples in the background here are really cool. I also thought the beat switch on this track was really interesting and engaging to listen to. I love the hi-hats on the beat in the song Madonna. The vibe here is really cool. The drums in general are just really good, and I love the occasional use of reversed sounds. The instrumental outro is also very vibey. The bass on 6 God feels incredible. It's a bit of a minimalistic song, but it's still very engaging. The vocal performance here is high energy and very fun to listen to. The groove and vibe on the track Star 67 are fantastic. The intro sets the vibe really well. The atmosphere here feels very immersive. It has a great song structure and progression. I think the interludes add a lot to the track's vibe. Next is Preach featuring Party Next Door. And to be honest, I'm not huge on Party Next Door's vocals, and they're not bad or anything though. Although the chorus is a little unengaging to me, and the songwriting feels somewhat disjointed. Drake's verse is pretty good, and I felt the song does get better as it goes on, but it's still not great in my opinion. The outro beat actually sounds really cool though, and I wish we could have gotten more of that. It has a much less energy than the rest of the song in my opinion. Wednesday Night Interlude also features Party Next Door, who I actually think sounds better here compared to that last song. This interlude has a cool vibe to it, and the instrumental is really nice. Then there's Used To featuring Lil Wayne. This is a song with some very powerful drums. The beat is really cool and grabs my attention quickly, and Lil Wayne has a pretty great verse here. The progression could be a little more interesting in my opinion, but it's still a really fun song. 6man has a really impactful and enjoyable beat. The instrumental is generally really cool. It has a great song structure and progressions, and I thought the flow and the verses were really cool. The track Now and Forever has a really vibey and atmospheric intro. The beat is really cool here. I love the more metallic percussion elements, and I think the instrumental progression was really cool. I did think the lyrical content was a little repetitive at times though. Next is Company featuring Travis Scott, who I have heard of before, but I don't really know anything about him to be honest. The instrumental has a very enjoyable vibe, and there are these dog barking sound effects that I think had the potential to be really weird and out of place if done poorly, but I think they pulled it off pretty well here. They don't feel awkwardly implemented, and they actually fit the song. Unfortunately, Travis Scott's verse didn't really work for me though. I thought some of the lyrics felt really silly, and I don't think it's a bad song by any means, but I wasn't enjoying it as much as I would have liked to. You and the Six has this beautiful vibey intro. The drums are very nice, and I like the topic of this song. My only issue with this track is that while some of the lyrics feel very impactful, others can feel awkward. The Home Alone line is really funny. For example, I quote, "I'm Game of Thrones with it, mama. I'm home alone with it, mama." and I could only imagine Drake running around his house, setting off elaborate traps and getting into comedic hijinks. and it's just really like silly to thing to think about. It does kind of distract from like how serious the subject matter here is like trying to be. It's a very goofy image to have in my head while I'm listening to this song. Then we have Jungle, which I mentioned before as being my favorite track. It's really good. After that is the final song, 6 p.m. in New York, which I also talked a bit about before. But I also wanted to mention how this track does have a really good amount of energy to it, and how that's a very welcome change of pace considering how like low energy the last couple of tracks before this were. My least favorite song from this mixtape was definitely Preach. As I already said, personally I'm not really a fan of how Party Next Door sounds here. And I felt like the chorus was a little unengaging, so on and so forth. I think it's alright, but I don't love it by any means. Overall, I really enjoyed this mixtape. Maybe it's not a perfect 10 out of 10 for Drake, but I really love how most of this project sounds. There's a lot to like here, and what I really like. There's also some stuff that I wasn't overly keen on though, and I did have some critiques about a few tracks in the second half. If this is where Drake peaks, then it's a pretty great peak, but I guess I'll find out when I check out his newer material as I continue my journey through his discography. With that all being said, I really enjoyed listening to this, despite a couple of weaker songs, and I'd give this album a 9.2 out of 10. To Pimp a Butterfly. There's no way I can say anything about this album that hasn't already been said, but I'm just going to go ahead and yap anyway. So I finally listened to the highest rated album of all time on both Rate Your Music and Album of the Year. And I'm not at all going against popular opinion here. This is an absolute masterpiece of an album. Everything about it just sounds incredible, and there's literally nothing for me to complain about when it comes to this music. It feels to me like this and Kendrick's previous album are like equally good at doing different things. Although I would pick this one as my favorite of the two if I had to make that decision. The production is fantastic all around, vocal performances too. I love the songwriting, samples, song structures, and everything else. My favorite track from this project is a tough choice because they're all just amazing, but personally I'm leaning towards King Kunta, You, All Right, How Much a Dollar Cost, The Black of the Berry, and I as like contenders. For once in my life, I didn't just like immediately pick the longest song on the album as my favorite, which is surprising for me. But you know, there you have it. All of these tracks are just so good in so many ways, man. I'll list like a few like my favorite elements from a couple of tracks now, and then I'll like talk more about them in detail in a second. King Kunta is like definitely one of the more catchy tracks here for me. It has like a really smooth and enjoyable instrumental. Kendrick's flow is amazing, and the chorus is fantastic. And I love the songwriting in general. I also loved All Right for very similar reasons. It's smooth sound, fantastic chorus, great vocal performance from Kendrick, and amazing songwriting. Then there's How Much a Dollar Cost, which had some especially great storytelling, and I found very interesting and engaging. I also loved the piano on that track, and the chorus was really beautiful thanks to the fantastic voice of James Font Leroy. This album opens with Wesley's Theory, featuring George Clinton and Thundercat. There's an absolutely beautiful jazzy intro here with a really cool transition into the beat. This song has an interesting vibe and style, some really cool vocal deliveries, and incredibly engaging song structure, and the abrupt ending here is very impactful. For Free, Interlude has an incredible instrumental. It's really chaotic, but also very engaging and interesting, and the way it speeds up towards the end is really cool too. Then we have King Kunta with its smooth and very enjoyable instrumental, Kendrick's amazing flow, fantastic chorus, amazing songwriting and structure, and beautiful outro instrumental. Institutionalized features Anna Wise, Bilal, and Snoop Dogg. I have heard of Snoop Dogg before, so there you have it. Anyway, I felt that the transition of the last song is really great. This song It has a really smooth and interesting instrumental during the intro, and the sudden transition into the second part of this song is really effective. I love the production on this song especially, and there's some great usage of panning here. And you know what, Snoop Dogg sounds really cool here. He gives a great performance. I've never been a fan of Snoop Dogg. I've never really looked into his music much. I've never really listened to him much. I've always just kind of known him as the funny guy who likes weed. But he did great here, so credit to him for that. These Walls, featuring Thundercat, Anna Wise, and Bilal, has an intro that creates a really interesting atmosphere. The beat here sounds fantastic, I love the drums especially, and Kendrick's flow on this track is great. I also love the chorus, and I think the song has an amazing energy. There are also some beautiful keys and saxophone at around 3 minutes 15 seconds. I just really want to mention that, and I think the songwriting and structure here are just really engaging. I love the transition from the last song into You. The intro here has a really interesting vibe, the vocals are intense and really engaging, and I love the glitchy effects around 2 minutes in. The switch up is really interesting. I thought the incredibly dark vocals and lyrics in part 2 on this track were really impactful. Then there's Alright, which has a really smooth sound. The chorus is fantastic. The flow and vocal performance from Kendrick is great. The songwriting is amazing. The vocals during the outro are beautiful. For Sale, Interlude is up next, and it has a beat that feels unique. It stands out from the other tracks so far. This track has a great vibe. The vocals here are fantastic, and the outro is incredible. Then we have the song Mama. The vibe here feels really good. I love the choice of percussion, and there's a really cool switch up near the end. The energy here feels chaotic and really engaging. It's all around a wonderful sounding song. Hood Politics has some really interesting progressions and switch ups, great usage of brief pauses in the instrumental, and some really engaging lyrical content. How Much a Dollar Cost features James Fauntleroy and Ronald Isley. This track has a great flow from Kendrick, the chorus is really beautiful, James Fauntleroy has a great voice. I love the piano on this track, and the storytelling here is great. Complexion, a Zulu Love featuring Rhapsody is up next, and I really like the bass on this track. The songwriting and structure are very good. I love the vibes of this song, and Rhapsody has a great verse. The Blacker the Berry has a really engaging and enjoyable to listen to beat. There are some really cool effects used on the vocals here, and the vocal delivery is intense and impactful. This song stands out from the rest of the album for its distinct, different style in the chorus. I also really like the delivery of the pre-chorus, it sounds cool. I also wanted to mention that the instrumental outro for this song is really nice. I love the smooth vibes on the intro to You Ain't Gotta Lie, Mama Said. The bass and drums on this track sound really nice. This song is just really vibey and enjoyable to listen to. The usage of brief pauses around 2 minutes and 20 seconds was really effective. That part was a great moment on the track, it's so good. I is one of the songs that I've actually heard before at some point. I don't remember where, but I do remember listening to it. The intro builds up energy and excitement very well. I absolutely love the instrumental on this track. The fast vocal delivery here is really cool. The more positive feel of this track is a welcome change of pace and helps this song stand out. The chorus is also really fun and enjoyable, and I thought the songwriting here was amazing. Mortal Man has some really nice auto-tuned vocals in the intro. The piano sounds beautiful, the bass and drums are really cool too. The flow and delivery from Kendrick here are amazing, the songwriting is incredible, same for the structure and progression. I'm not always a fan of long spoken word sections, but it feels very fitting for the end of this project, and I think it was well implemented here. The reintroduction of the instrumental towards the end was also really nice, and the sudden ending sounds great. I don't have a least favorite track, I don't have any complaints, I have nothing negative to say about any of the music here, it's just all incredible. This album blew me away. Overall, I loved my time listening to this project. If this is your favorite album of all time, I totally get why. It's not mine, but that's just because most of my top spots are reserved for my favorite rock and metal albums. But when it comes to the hip-hop projects I've listened to, This is easily up there with the best, so there's that. It's just good. It's just so good. Easy 10 out of 10 album. Before I started listening to Drake, I had seen the album cover for Views a bunch of times, and I always thought it looked really cool. It even made me like consider checking it out a couple times. I guess you could say I was judging a book by its cover, but either way, finally here, giving it a listen. I have to be honest, I really wanted to like this project more than I did. I think this album has some good stuff to offer, even a couple of really great highlights, but the quality consistency feels all over the place. If Take Care was an amazing album hindered by its length, Views is a very good album ruined by its length. Now, when I say ruined, it's a bit of an exaggeration. I didn't give this project like a super low rating or anything, but I can't say I really liked it. When this album is good, it's pretty good, but those moments are less common than I would have liked. I also think this project has multiple of Drake's worst songs up to this point in his discography, and while those highlights are good, I would only consider like one of these tracks from this release to be up there amongst his best work. So let's talk about that one track. My favourite song from this album is the obvious pick. It's Hotline Bling. You know it, I know it, everyone knows the song. I heard it occasionally on the radio back in the day, and while I never really cared for Drake back then, I never really had any like negative feelings towards this song specifically. Now coming back to it and listening to it on purpose instead of just like hearing the chorus in passing, I can say it's a fantastic tune with like so much I like about it. It has a good energy, instrumental is fun and engaging, the vocals are very good. It's the big Drake hit, and it has that reputation for a reason. Another highlight for me on this album was Keep the Family Close, which I don't think is quite as good as Hotline Bling, but I really enjoyed this song too, for it's a cool atmospheric intro and really beautiful instrumental. A few of the lines there on that track did feel a little awkwardly delivered to me, but it's generally a really great song despite having a couple of nitpicks with it. Keep the Family Close is the opening track for this album, so since I just talked about it, I'll move on to the next one. 9 has a deep and impactful bass that I really liked. The flow from Drake here is good, but I felt the chorus was a little underwhelming personally. You With Me has a really vibey intro and instrumental. The beat switch up in the second half of the track is cool. That being said, the lyrical content here is kind of a mixed bag. I'm not a fan of some of these lines, like, you toying with it like Happy Meal. Like come on, that's really dumb. The vocals here aren't bad or anything, they just don't feel as engaging as some of the other songs from this album. The drums on Feel No Ways are really cool, the song has a good amount of energy, the vocals are quite good. I enjoy this track's chorus too. This one isn't like one of my favourite Drake songs or anything, but it's solid. The beat on Hype isn't bad, but it feels a little disjointed to me, mostly because I'm not really a fan of the looping melody here. The vocal performance on this track also wasn't really clicking with me, and the song structure here, as well as the flow, feel just off to me. The drums are pretty good sounding though, so I'll give it that. This song just isn't really that good though, in my opinion. Western Road Flows has a beat that sounds really nice, the drums are impactful, the vocal samples are cool, while the vocals are pretty good. There were a few lines I didn't really care for. Then we have Redemption, which has a good sounding bass. That is quite nice. And while the beat here does feel a little basic to me, it has a decent vibe. Unfortunately, the vocal delivery here doesn't really feel particularly engaging to me, and there wasn't much here in terms of progression. With You is another track featuring Party Next Door. And while the intro has a nice vibe and the beat is interesting, I'm still not really the biggest fan of Party Next Door. Drake's performance here is pretty good though, and while I don't think this track is amazing or anything, it's alright. Faithful featuring Pimp C and DVSN has a beat that wasn't really clicking with me. Pimp C sounds fine but not great. But DVSN has a decent verse. His voice sounds quite nice. especially when he hits that high note around 4 minutes and 2 seconds. Oh, that is a good bit of vocals there. Everything else on this song is just kind of okay though. It's not really like that good or that bad. It's just okay. There's a good amount of energy in the beat for Still Here. It's a nice change of pace for the album. Drake's flow is pretty good here. And while the lyrics aren't amazing, they're all right. I do really like this cool glitchy beat heard at around 2 minutes 23 seconds though. I thought that was really good. Next up is Controller. I like the unique style of this beat. It sounds cool. The vibe is fun. Drake sounds good here, and the bridge here is a cool switch up. Although that one horn sound you can hear on this track is a little jarring, and it kind of took me out of the vibe a little bit. The instrumental does have a good progression throughout though. One Dance featuring WizKid and Kyla is, well... Okay, so I like to think I'm someone who can enjoy most genres of music, but there are a couple of exceptions to this. I've never really been a big fan of country, it's just never really interested me. Another example is Dancehall, which I believe this song falls under. And to be honest, I hate Dancehall, mostly because of the Dancehall drum beat. You know the one that I'm talking about, the one that goes dun 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 dun. Like, I swear every single dancehall track I have ever heard uses the exact same drum beat, and I can't stand it. I really can't explain why, but like something about the drum beat genuinely gets under my skin. I felt like annoyed, even like just like mimicking the drum beat just then. Like it irritates me in a way that like no other beat can. Maybe it's because it's like so common, and the songs that use it like almost never do anything to like make it more interesting. I don't know, it's something about the rhythm annoys me, and I just can't get over that. The piano on this track was good though, and I would say that there are some cool ideas on display here, but despite a couple of redeeming qualities, the drum beat just completely ruins the whole song for me. I just don't like it. Next is Grammys featuring Future. The beat here is fine, but I didn't really find it that engaging. Drake's vocals are fine, but not really that great, and I found the chorus to be repetitive and annoying, and I also thought the lyrical content here was really basic and uninteresting. I didn't really like this track very much. The intro to Child's Play builds energy quite well. It feels fun. The beat here isn't incredible, but it sounds nice enough. Sadly, I'm not really the biggest fan of these lyrics though. Pop Style is the next song. The intro melody is nice. The beat is kind of fun. The drums are pretty impactful, and overall I'd say it's a decently enjoyable song. Too Good features Rihanna, and I really didn't like this song. The dreaded dancehall beat returns here, and although it is a slightly like different variation on the one from One Dance, I don't like it. I do not like this style of drum beat. The bass does sound good, very good here though, and Rihanna sounds good. I just I actually realized like I had heard this song before on the radio when the chorus hit. I didn't really recognize anything else but the chorus. Like I heard that, I was like, oh, it's that song. Okay. Anyway, despite having some redeeming qualities, I just can't enjoy this song because of the beat. I really don't like the beat. Summer's Over interlude featuring Majid Jordan has a really beautiful instrumental. The vocals sound really good, and it's just a great interlude. Honestly, I kind of wish this was like a full song instead. It's really good. Then we have Fire and Desire, which honestly didn't leave much of an impact on me. The vibe is alright, the vocals are okay, the beat is decent. It's all just fine. I didn't really care either way when it comes to this track. The beat on Views is quite nice and impactful. It has a good amount of energy. Drake's flow is pretty good, and the song has a fun vibe. Also, I really like the cool atmospheric outro here. Then we finally end the album with Hotline Bling. I already talked about this one. Catchy chorus, good energy, instrumental is fun and engaging, great vibe, vocals are very good, the bridge here is fantastic, and keeps the song engaging, and it's a big hit for a reason. My least favourite song here seems to be an unpopular opinion, but it is what it is. I really don't like One Dance. It's not even like because I think it's like really badly performed or anything. Honestly, I think it's just because I can't stand dancehall as a genre. This is also the reason I didn't like the track Too Good. Although it does use a slightly different variation of the beat. Like, man, I don't like this. I don't like this style of music. I really don't. Overall, this is not a very good album, in my opinion. But I don't think it's an awful album either. My biggest issue with it is that there's just so much filler. Why are there 20 songs? I know I usually love long songs and albums, but it has to be a long album full of songs like I actually enjoy listening to. And this project is hit or miss at best. I like the good songs here, and I will give it the credit that it deserves. But I can't say that I like the album when I was already starting to feel bored of it halfway through. For me, this album is a 6.6 out of 10. Another incredible album from Kendrick Lamar. I didn't feel that Damn was quite as good as Good Kid, M.A.A.d City or To Pimp a Butterfly, but the difference in quality is tiny in the grand scheme of things. Aside from 2 tracks, I thought every single song on this project was absolutely perfect. There's some truly amazing stuff here, and I loved listening to this album. A couple of little nitpicks and criticisms aside. My favourite track from this project was definitely between DNA, Element, Pride, Humble, XXX, Fear, and Duckworth. Out of all of the 10 out of 10 tracks from this release, these are like the ones that I would want to highlight the most. When it comes to picking a number 1 favourite, I feel myself leaning most towards DNA, Duckworth, and maybe also Pride. It's a really tough decision. DNA for its energy, fantastic vocals, and powerful sound. Pride for its amazing beat, distinct style, and incredible atmosphere, and Duckworth for its engaging songwriting, great vocals, and really impactful ending to the album. We start off this project with Blood. This song has a really smooth and beautiful intro and very intriguing storytelling, and it sets an interesting atmosphere for the album ahead. DNA then plays with a great transition from the intro. The beat is incredibly energetic and fun, the flow here is fantastic. Kendrick's vocals sound amazing on this track as usual. The transition into part 2 of this song feels really engaging and interesting, and this whole track is very intense and powerful. Ya has a really cool atmosphere. I love how different it feels from the last track. The drums here are impactful too. The only thing with this song is that it does feel a little short to me. I would have liked actually a longer version, maybe with like some extra like progressions and stuff. Maybe it's amazing as it is. I really love the song, but I feel like there is like potential here for maybe for an extended version of some kind. The song Elements has a really cool vocal focused intro. The instrumental on this track is just really beautiful as a whole, and the smooth vibe here is great. The flow from Kendrick is very good. I really like the piano, and the songwriting here is amazing all around. Feel has great usage of vocal panning in the intro. The vibe is really cool in this track. I love the bass here especially. The vocal delivery is engaging, and I love how the instrumental progresses. I also thought that the gradual increase in intensity over time here is really good. Loyalty featuring Rihanna has a beat that feels really creative and unique. The chorus is beautiful, the vocals sound amazing all around, and the vibe is really smooth and enjoyable. Then we have Pride. The intro here is wonderful, the beat is amazing, and the style of the song stands out from the other tracks so far. I love the sort of echoey, ghost-like vocals during the chorus. The progression here is amazing, and the atmosphere of this track is incredible. The next track is Humble. This is another song that I have actually heard before. The intro to this track is iconic and very attention-grabbing. The flow here is great, the vocals sound fantastic, the beat is impactful and energetic, and while lyrically speaking the chorus is very simple and repetitive, the energy and the vibe like makes it work really well despite that. It's like, I know that it's not like the most complex chorus, but the song is just so much fun. I don't even care. I don't even mind that it's simple. You know, like sometimes simple can actually be better in a way. You know, it depends what you're going for. The intro to Lust has a really beautiful vibe. I love the use of panning here. The reverse drums are so cool. The vocals are amazing. I love the chorus here. It's very distinct from the rest of the album, and the beat switch up around halfway through is really cool. I love how the instrumental progresses on this track. There's also this distorted vocal humming in the background near the end that I wanted to mention. That part sounds amazing. Up next is Love, featuring Zakari, which has a really nice chorus, an amazing vibe, and Zakari's vocal performance here is great. I think this is a very beautiful song. XXX features U2, which I wasn't expecting at all. I know of U2 as that band who had an album that Apple forced everyone with an iPhone to have on their iTunes back in the day, if anybody else remembers that. That's all I really know about them, to be honest. Anyway, this song has a beautiful intro which feels engaging and attention-grabbing. I love the beat on this track. There are really interesting switch-ups and progressions here, and I love the song structure in general. The bass is especially good in the second part of this song, and I love the singing from Bono. The next song is Fear. It has a smooth and beautiful beat. The intro is fantastic. The reverse vocals used on this track are really cool and add to the atmosphere of the song. The vocals and lyrics feel engaging and dark. The storytelling is great, and the progression here is fantastic. Then we have God. At first, I wasn't really sure how I felt about the chorus here. It did grow on me as the song progressed, but it feels a little underwhelming still, to me, in my opinion. The beat here does sound really good though. The drums are powerful, the vibe is great, and the verses are very good. I just think the chorus could have been a little more impactful. Then we end this listening experience with Duckworth. The intro here is really nice, the songwriting and structure are very interesting and engaging, Kendrick's vocals are great again, and the bass sounds especially cool here. The ending is also really interesting and impactful. The way that this track connects back to the beginning of the album is really cool. I love it when albums do that. My least favorite track here was definitely God, and not because it's bad or anything. I still think it's a pretty great song, but personally I just wasn't sure how I felt about the chorus. It didn't really click with me at first, and like I said, as the song progressed, I found that it did grow on me, but it's still just, I feel like it's just a little underwhelming. The verses are excellent though, and I really love the drums on that track. So yeah. Overall, this is not quite a perfect album, but it's so close to perfect that it doesn't really even matter that it isn't. No matter where I may place it in terms of like my favorite Kendrick albums, the fact that the scores I've been giving them have been so close together is incredible either way. I mean, wow. This album is fantastic. It's a 9.7 out of 10. This one was tough. Scorpion is an album with some decent tracks and even a couple really good ones, and if you were to take those good tracks, remove all the rest, you would have a alright little album on your hands. But guess what? That's right, 90 minutes of music and 25 songs. Getting through this whole project was not a pleasant experience. Sure, there were some good moments, but they're so few and far between. And there's so much filler here that, and there are some like truly bad songs to be found throughout this album's entirely unearned massive runtime. It's not all bad. I do want to make that clear, but it's such a mixed bag. There were a couple of times where I was listening to this album and I just had to like stop listening, get up, and go lie down for a while because I was just so bored and sick of listening to this thing. I took my first break after only 6 songs. With that out of the way, let's talk about something positive. My favourite song on this album was by far Nice for What. It's a song with a good amount of energy. Drake's flow is great, the drum and bass feel really nice, and the song structure is very engaging. It's genuinely a good track, and I actually liked it a lot. The other highlight for me here was Sandra's Rose. The beat sounds pretty good, the vocals are fun, and while there are some clunky lyrics, the song is great for the most part. Survival is the first song on this album, and honestly I really didn't care for it. The vocals didn't have much of an impact on me, the flow felt kind of off, and the instrumental was kind of basic. The bass did sound kind of nice though, so I'll give it that. Non-Stop has a decent amount of energy, the drums and bass sound good, the vocals are alright, but not particularly engaging, and I think the chorus was kind of cool. There isn't really much of a progression to this song, and while it is a decent vibe, I don't love it. I think Elevate feels basic and unengaging to me. It's pretty unimpactful, and I just really didn't have any strong feelings about it one way or the other. Emotionless has a nice and impactful intro, the beat is pretty good, Drake's flow is enjoyable, and it's a good vibe. There's some really nice piano at the end as well. My main issue with this track is that the lyrical content wasn't particularly great. While I did like this song, it's not amazing or anything, it could be better. Then there's God's Plan, which I have obviously heard before on the radio and stuff. I never liked this song, and I still don't like it now. It's very basic, kind of boring. The lyrical content is not impressive to say the least. Lines like, I feel good, sometimes I don't, and turn the O2 into the O3 are particularly bad. On top of that, I just found the chorus to be really boring. After that, we have the song I'm Upset. The hi-hats on this track are cool, but that's pretty much the only thing I liked about this song. Other than that, it's just really boring. And it was after this song that I had to take my first break from listening to the album. I had to just walk away for a bit, because I then came back to 8 out of 10, which has a beat that sounds quite nice. The flow from Drake here is pretty good. Funnily enough, my rating for this song was actually a 7 out of 10, so it fell just short of its goals. It's a pretty good track. The drums on m.A.A.d are cool, the piano is nice, but the vocals are hit or miss. I'm not in love with this song by any means. Can't Take a Joke is just kind of here. It's fine. I don't really like it or dislike it, and I just kind of feel meh about the whole thing. Sandra's Rose was one I mentioned before, with a really nice intro, great beat, fun vocals. This is a good track. There are some clunky lyrics though, for example, and I quote, 2 girls that I rope like Indiana Jones. That is a really goofy line. I don't know, man. Talk Up, featuring Jay-Z, has some really impactful bass, good vibe and good energy, and Jay-Z's verse here is good as well. I enjoyed it. Is there more? Is a good question, and unfortunately the answer is yes. There's still a lot more to go on this album. Bad jokes aside, the instrumental here doesn't really click with me. Vocals feel awkward and disjointed, and the song really just didn't have much of an impact on me. The outro on this track does sound quite nice though, so I'll give it that. Peak is way too slow and simple for me. I don't care for the chorus, and while the vocals sound fine, the song as a whole is just really boring in my opinion. The synth on Summer Games brings a different vibe to the track, with which it feels nice. It's a good change of pace. The drums here are pretty impactful, and I think the song has a pretty good vibe. My only issue with it is that there are some awkward lyrics here too, like, yeah, you said I led you on, but you followed me. I followed one of your friends, you unfollowed me. Like, come on. I just thought that was a really bad line. But anyway, Jaded was also way too slow and simple for me. And while the vocals were fine, I just found the song really boring. It felt like it just like dragged on and on for eternity, man. Then there's Nice for What, which I mentioned earlier as being my favorite. Like I said before, this track has a great amount of energy, great flow from Drake, the drums and bass feel really engaging, and the song structure is really good too. I also wanted to mention cool use of chopped up sort of glitchy vocals on this track, which I really liked. Finesse is another way too slow and simple song with fine vocals that's just really boring. This, Jaded, and Peak may as well be the same song to me. I don't care for them. Ratchet Happy Birthday is awful. It's a really bad song. The instrumental is unengaging, the vocals aren't interesting, the lyrics just plain suck, and it's just such a fucking stupid song, man. I hate this track. That's How You Feel is better, but that's not saying much. The instrumental is quite nice, but I don't really care for these vocals and lyrics. And I ended up taking another break from the album after listening to this song. Blue Tint is also a song on this album. It's just kind of basic and repetitive. I didn't really have any strong feelings about it. Then there's In My Feelings, which is, of course, one of the songs I have heard before. It was pretty big when it came out, but I'd never actually heard the full thing, just like little bits of it. The track has a decent beat, the chorus is pretty catchy, it has a cool instrumental outro, and it's enjoyable enough. I don't mind this song. Don't Matter to Me has a posthumous feature from Michael Jackson, which I wasn't expecting. Obviously, I know Michael Jackson. I don't think I need to clarify that. But I've also never really taken a deep dive into his discography, so I only know the big hits. Maybe I should do that at some point. Anyway, this track has a nice vibe. I like the synths, and the beat is alright. My only issue with it is that the production on Michael Jackson's vocals feels a little off. Like they should be more powerful, but they're somehow restrained. Probably because this is samples of his unfinished vocals before his death, which would make sense. So there is that, but it is what it is. After Dark is the next song. It features Static Major and T.Y. Dollar Sign. I don't know Static Major, but I am a little more familiar with T.Y. Dollar Sign. I've heard a bit of the music he's worked on before, but I'm not an expert or anything. The vibe here is fine, the instrumental is okay, the vocals feel a little disjointed and awkward to me. Personally, I didn't really care for this song. Final Fantasy is just no. This track is terrible, man, it's just awful. Moving on. March 14 has a nice piano part, but that's really the only thing I liked about it. Otherwise, I just didn't really care about the song one way or the other. And that's the end of the album. My least favourite track was Ratchet Happy Birthday. It's just awful. It's an unengaging, the instrumental is unengaging, the vocals are uninteresting, the lyrics are terrible, and it's just stupid. I can't stand this track. There's really nothing positive I can say about it, except for I guess there are even worse songs out there. I guess that's the best I can think of. I don't have much else to say. This is probably one of the most boring, hard to get through albums I've ever experienced. I might have liked a few tracks, but as a full listening experience, I'm sorry to say I genuinely just really didn't enjoy my time with this album. Are there worse projects out there? Absolutely. This one is just mediocre. But it's 90 minutes of mediocre, which is so painful. I would give Scorpion a 5.5 out of 10. The worst part about being done with this album is that I know I can't relax and feel happy it's over, because I still have to listen to the next Drake album. Drake continues to bore me with his 80 plus minute long projects filled with mediocre tracks. I didn't like this album, and while it does have a few enjoyable songs on it, the highlights here are just too few and far between. And then there's also the problem that even his best songs from this project don't actually score very highly anyway. By the end of my time listening to Certified Lover Boy, I was mentally drained and I just felt exhausted. Does this release have redeeming qualities? Sure, but it's hard to focus on them when my experience was so dull and tedious. My favourite track on this album was the one that didn't have Drake on it. Yebba's Heartbreak is technically an interlude rather than a full song, but the piano here is beautiful. Yebba has a really nice voice and it's just a pleasant listen. It's really nice. I really like this song. Another highlight for me here was You Only Live Twice, which I enjoyed for its very energetic intro, really cool vibe and engaging songwriting. I would also like to mention that I thought Rick Ross sounded great on this track. So, we open the album with the song Champagne Poetry, and I really don't like this looping vocal sample in the background. It's really annoying. The instrumental is minimal and it sounds fine. Drake's vocals are good, but none of that matters because the looping sample just ruins it all. It just ruins everything. The second half of this track is actually much better than the first, but I still just can't say I like the song. The drums in the outro are really cool and feel powerful though, so I just wanted to give credit where it's due. The next song is Pappy's Home, and I have to say the piano during the intro is really nice. The beat is actually kind of fun, and Drake's flow here is pretty good. I actually like this track. The song Girls Want Girls featuring Lil Baby. Yeah, you say you a lesbian girl. Me too. So I don't think I need to tell you how bad the lyrics are here. I hadn't heard this song before, but I did know about the infamous lesbian line, and yeah, it's really fucking funny. Other than that though, this is a really basic song that just doesn't do much for me to keep me engaged, and I don't know. Also, what was Lil Baby cooking here? Like, genuinely, his whole part is just ass. How did a real person write down these lyrics and think, hell yeah, man, these lines go hard? No, they don't. These are terrible. Never do this again. In the Bible, featuring Lil Durk and Giveon, has the flow. Well, the flow and vocal delivery is really weird here. The beat feels basic and dull, and the lyrics are awful. I genuinely laughed out loud multiple times while listening to this song. Please never let Lil Durk cook again. I will say, Giveon does have a good voice, but he can't save this song on his own. Love All features Jay-Z, and while he does have a good performance on this track, I found that the song was just kind of boring. Not especially bad, but not very good either. Then we have Fair Trade featuring Travis Scott, which has a pretty fun and energetic beat. It's a welcome change of pace for this album. The vocals flow very well here too, and I did enjoy this track. Next up is Way Too Sexy. What a song title. Which features Future and Young Thug. I have to ask, do any songs do interpolation well? I just feel like every time I hear a track that interpolates some old pop song, it's just really bad. Like that one song that called I'm Good or whatever, that interpolates Blue by Eiffel 65 and everyone hates it. I feel like this whole technique is just never done well. So anyway, yeah, I don't like the entire concept of this song. I don't enjoy how they're interpolating an old meme song. It's just boring and annoying. Sure, this song isn't the worst thing ever, but I certainly don't enjoy listening to it, and it feels like it drags on forever. TSU is just boring. I don't know what else to say about it. N Too Deep, featuring Future again, has an intro instrumental which feels pretty cool actually, but I don't care for the vocals on this track at all. Except for the chorus, which does sound alright. The transition into part 2 of this track is very sudden and jarring, and I don't mean that in a good way. Honestly, I just didn't care for the second part either, and I found that the beat was actually even less interesting than in the first part. The instrumental on Pipe Down is actually quite nice, but the vocals don't really do anything that interesting to me. It's just an okay song. The instrumental is definitely carrying it here. Then we have Yebba's Heartbreak featuring Yebba, which is really good as I described earlier. The beat on No Friends in the Industry has a good energy, and while it's nothing revolutionary, it's a solid track. My biggest issue with it is that the lyrics do feel a little repetitive. Then we have Knife Talk, which features 21 Savage and Project Pat. The bass sounds good here, and while I don't find the songwriting very engaging, it's fine, it's enjoyable enough. 7 AM on Bridle Path exists, it's just sort of here. Race My Mind has kind of a nice beat to it, and I like some of these vocals, it's rather enjoyable. Then there's Fountains featuring Thames, which has the dancehall beats, though I automatically hate it with all my heart. After that is Get Along Better featuring T.Y. Dollar Sign. It's quite enjoyable with some nice vocals, and the instrumental has a good vibe. You Only Live Twice features Lil Wayne and Rick Ross. It has a good energetic intro, great vibe. Rick Ross has a good performance on this track, and the songwriting is engaging. It felt so good to finally get another really good song on this album after so long. IMY2 has a feature from Kid Cudi, who I have heard of, but I really don't know anything about him. It's not bad, it's okay, it's just not really that noteworthy, to be honest. Fucking Fans. I don't know, man. It has really weird lyrics, annoying vocals, and while the beat is alright, it's nothing special. This song is just really boring. Then the album finally ends with The Remorse, a song that's boring, slow, and dull. My least favourite song here was Fountains, mostly because I just don't like the dancehall beat at all, and I found the songwriting to be extremely bland and boring. Other tracks I actively dislike here are Girls Want Girls, In the Bible, Way Too Sexy, Fucking Fans, and The Remorse. These are all just plain bad in my opinion. Overall, this album is just mostly kind of mediocre. It has some really bad moments, it has a couple of really good moments, but most of the tracks lie somewhere in between meh to decent, so around the 5 to 6 out of 10 range. I could probably keep yapping about why I didn't like this project, and I feel like I just be repeating everything I said about the last one, because they're basically the same album, pretty much. Basically, it's way too long, has way too much filler, and there is nowhere near enough good material for a good album to be salvaged out of this mess. I will never listen to this project again, man. It's a 5.1 out of 10. I'm starting to feel bad for the Drake fans still watching, man. If there are any left at this point. If you're a big fan of Drake and you're still watching despite me not liking the last couple albums, shout out to you. Or maybe you're a classic Drake fan who likes the old stuff like me, but you don't care for the last couple albums, also like me. Honestly, I'm not sure what the consensus is. Anyway, my point is, right now it kind of feels like I'm a kid in the medieval ages, and I work down in the mine shafts mining coal, bro. It's like every now and again, I get to come up from the mines to have a delicious hot meal of Kendrick's finest dishes, and then immediately after, I've got to go back down the Drake mines to gather more coal for the family. It really is just me glazing the fuck out of Kendrick, and then dreading every time I have to go back to listen to more Drake albums. That's really how it feels right now, man. Anyway, moving on. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is another incredible project from Kendrick, which stands up there with his best releases in my opinion. And this is an absolutely amazing listening experience from start to finish, which felt like Kendrick's most experimental and abstract project so far. There are some really interesting songwriting choices here, and some moments that really stood out to me as being extremely creative and different from what I was expecting. as well as the usual more conventional bangers that I always enjoy hearing from this artist. My favourite track from this project was probably Mother Sober, for its powerful and impactful lyrical content, emotional elements, really nice piano, and incredible progression heard throughout the track. It's a song that just really blew me away. Some of the other really big highlights I wanted to mention specifically here are United in Grief, N95, Father Time, Purple Hearts, Count Me Out, Saviour, Mr. Morale, and Mirror. All of which are incredible songs in their own ways, and so is every track on this album, but I still wanted to at least try to narrow down the track list to the biggest highlights, despite them all being amazing. So, the album starts with United in Grief, which has a really nice melodic vocals in the opening. The piano during said opening is really engaging alongside the vocals too. There are some really cool effects being used on the drums here. The beat is very good. I love the energy behind it. The songwriting and structure are very engaging, and the synths sound great. I also wanted to mention the beautiful piano heard during the outro. I think I've definitely heard the part of N95 somewhere before, but I'm not sure where. Either way, this song definitely has some really good opening vocals, fantastic songwriting, an impactful and engaging beat, and a really nice bridge. Next up is Worldwide Steppers, which has a really interesting, chaotic, and creative beat. I also really like the cool switch-ups and transitions here. Die Hard with BLXST, I'm assuming it's just pronounced Blast. Anyway, with Blast and Amanda Reifer, or Reifer, I'm not sure, sorry. But anyway, it has a smooth, beautiful instrumental. The chorus is really nice, Blast's voice is great, and it has a very different vibe compared to the other tracks so far. This is an amazing sounding song. Then there's Father Time featuring Sampha, which has great strains of piano. The beat is very impactful, Kendrick sounds great here. The song has a very good lyrical content and an amazing progression. Next is Rich Interlude. I thought the build-up here was really cool. It's not a full song, but it's very engaging. It does its job as an interlude very well. Rich Spirit has a beautiful intro. The bass sounds great here. The vibe and atmosphere are amazing, and I think the progression of this track is really engaging. We Cry Together with Taylor Page is an interesting song. So I know this track because I've actually heard part of the censored version of this before, because it's really funny. It's really funny, by the way. Why did they bother making a clean version when the song is 90% swear words? I don't know. I always thought that was kind of silly. Anyway, this is definitely one of the most the more impactful tracks here, and I found it really interesting for how unconventional of a song it is. The vibey intro is fantastic, and the piano sounds great here, but what's really strange is the vocals, where this song depicts a fairly realistic argument between two people in a relationship. It's kind of off-putting, but in a way that feels intentional. It's really effective at doing what it tries to do. It makes me uncomfortable while listening to it, and I'd say that's a good thing. At first, I was conflicted about the chorus because it is very repetitive in terms of its lyrical content, but I figure that's kind of the idea. This is a fight that isn't thought out ahead of time. It's not scripted. It's supposed to be something like spontaneous and improvised sounding, and when you think of it that way, the chorus being the way that it is makes a lot of sense, and I'd say it works perfectly considering the vision and themes of the song. Purple Hearts with Summer Walker and Ghostface Killer has an impactful intro that immediately grabs my attention. The beat sounds great, I love the vocals here, it has a really nice chorus, and Ghostface Killer has a really good verse. And then there's Count Me Out with some great piano. The flow from Kendrick here is so good, and I love the background female vocals. It also has a really interesting progression, and the bridge here is great. Crown is the next song, and I think the intro here is really engaging. I love the piano on this track and how it has more of a quiet vibe. The lack of drums makes this track really stand out. The progression towards the end is also really beautiful. Then we have Silent Hill with Kodak Black. Always happy to see a reference to the greatest survival horror franchise ever. That's really cool. But anyway, the song has a really good glitchy / reverse sounding synth. The beat is really fun. Kodak Black's performance here is very good, and the piano in the outro sounds really nice. Savior Interlude is an interesting interlude. The strings here sound great and make for a cool change of pace. The track really works well as an interlude and adds a lot to the album experience. It's a very interesting thing. I really liked it. I thought it was great. Next up is Savior with Baby Keem and Sam Do. This song has an engaging, energetic intro. The songwriting is very interesting and it has great vocals. This track feels quite experimental and very creative. Anti-Diaries has a cool minimalistic beat. It has a very different vibe to the other tracks so far. It has a good progression and the storytelling on display here is very effective. Then we have Mr. Morale with Tana Leon. This song has a really dark and engaging intro that creates a great vibe. The beat feels very unique compared to others on this album. It's really engaging. It's a really engaging song. There are some really cool, interesting vocal harmonies and deliveries here too. Mother Sober featuring Beth Gibbons is a song I mentioned as being my favourite earlier. The piano is really nice. The lyrical content here is powerful and impactful. The progression of the song is incredible and the chorus is beautiful. Beth Gibbons sounds great too. We finished the album with Mirror. The instrumental sounds so cool. I love the vibe here. The vocals are great. I love the strings. The songwriting feels very engaging. And honestly, this is just the perfect ending to the album. Creative and interesting in so many ways. Overall, this is a project I absolutely love listening to. And throughout its over 70-minute runtime, I couldn't think of a single thing I would change or that I could really criticize in any way. This is a perfect masterpiece, which presents its themes and ideas in really interesting ways, and it helps that it's also just a lot of fun to listen to. This album is wonderful. It's another 10 out of 10 for Kendrick. Honestly, Nevermind has me conflicted. My first reaction while listening was very positive, and then suddenly it turned negative, and then over time I think it sort of started to become positive again. At first, when the album began and the intro started playing, I thought it sounded quite nice, and then it transitions into the first proper track very well, and Falling Back started playing, and I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. I was genuinely enjoying the first song here, and I was ready to come out here and say, you know what, I enjoyed this album. I thought it was really underrated, and it's really good. But then the chorus hit, and I realized that the rest of the song was just Drake repeating "Falling Back on Me" over and over again with almost no variation to the beat or vocals. I felt like I had been pranked. Like Drake had deliberately gotten my hopes up, only to hit me with the second half of the song, which was just repetitive and annoying. After that, I listened to Text Go Green, and I liked that song way less. I kept listening, and I kept disliking most of the songs. A Keeper being the only one that I actually really liked, until Massive. I had seen people saying that this album was supposed to be like Drake branching out and making something more like house, EDM, dance music sort of thing than hip hop. But I think listening to Massive was what really made that click with me. Massive is my favorite song from this album. I think it's an amazing track. When the beat has a really good energy to it, the song's progression is actually very good. And when it ended, I was just thinking, I need more of this and not whatever those last few tracks were. Now with the new perspective of trying to understand what this project was going for, I found myself enjoying it a lot more. I actually think I did get more of what I wanted. Flights Booked and Overdrive stood out to me as highlights on this project, and I really enjoyed listening to. When the album was over, I decided to even go back and listen to a few of the tracks from the first half I didn't like, with this new perspective to see if I could find something there I didn't understand before. It worked for a couple of tracks. I appreciated falling back a little more on my second listen, although I still do think it's a little too repetitive for me, and I actually ended up increasing my rating for Massive. On the other hand, I still don't like Text Go Green, Currents, or Calling My Name. I also don't really care for Sticky or Liability, but I don't think they're bad or anything, just like somewhere in like the middle. It's an interesting and strange experience to have with an album that is kind of screwed up how I usually like format these reviews, so I've had to just kind of like come up with something else here. We are still going to go through and look at each track individually though, so let's go ahead and do that now. Intro is what it says on the tin. It's a very nice ambient intro track. There's not much to say here aside from I really like how it transitions into the first proper song here. The drums on Falling Back sound good. The song has a good amount of energy. Drake's voice sounds nice in the first half or so. But then it does start to fall apart when Drake just starts repeating Falling Back on Me over and over again. On my first listen, I thought that this kind of just like ruined the whole song, and that it would have been good if it were just the first half, but on my second listen, it did grow on me a little, and I ended up enjoying the song more overall, although I still think it would be better without the second half, so yeah. Next is Text Go Green. I don't like the beat on this track at all, and although the vocals are fine, it's just not very fun to listen to, and it feels like it drags on for way too long. Currents is, well, in my notes here, I've just written down squeaky mattress type beat. So take that how you will. No, seriously, but the beat sounds so goofy. I just can't get into it, man. Like, it's really dumb. Like, at least it's like funny. It's funny bad and not just like boring bad. But like, what was he thinking? What was the thought process behind squeaky mattress beat? I don't know. Anyway, A Keeper has a vibey beat. I actually quite like it. The performance from Drake sounds quite nice here, and this track is basically just Falling Back but better. There's also a really nice beat switch up near the end. Up next is Calling My Name. The first half of the song actually has a really nice vibe to it, and I was enjoying it until it just like suddenly cuts to something like completely different out of nowhere. Honestly, I don't care for the second half of the song at all. Like, it's not very good. It has really dumb lyrics. It kind of ruins the whole thing for me. Sticky is a track I really tried to get into, but I just couldn't. Even on my second listen, I just wasn't enjoying it. I'm not sure exactly why, but something about it just wasn't working for me. Then we get to my favorite track, Massive. It has a quite nice melodic intro, the beat has a good energy to it, the song has some interesting progressions, and man, it's just so much fun to listen to. I really wish the album had more songs this good on it. The intro of Flights Booked has a really nice vibe, the beat is minimalist, but it's fun to listen to and the chorus is really good. Overdrive has some really cool sounding bass, the beat has a good progression, and the energy here is great. Also, the guitar solo at 2 minutes 48 is really cool. Next is Downhill, which has a really cool chill vibe. I like the distinct style of the percussion here, and while it could have had a bit more of an interesting progression, it's still a nice song to listen to. I like it. Tie That Binds is an enjoyable vibe. The guitar on this track is a really nice addition, and the progression here is very good. Liability has beautiful synths during the intro and good bass, but the beat wasn't really engaging and the vocals were just like okay, so I wasn't really the biggest fan of this track. Then we end the album with Jimmy Cooks featuring 21 Savage, which is more of like a usual like Drake hip hop track. The energy is great, Drake's flow is pretty good here, the beat feels impactful, and 21 Savage has a good verse on the song. This is a really interesting release for me. I'm not sure if I've ever felt this conflicted about an album. It's like I want to come out and say, it's actually really fun and a creative change of style for Drake, one that's underrated, and I kind of do feel like that. However, I also think this album has some real issues. Tracks with underdeveloped instrumentals, some off-putting lyrics, stuff like that. I like a good amount of what this project has to offer, and I do like that Drake branched out into a different genre here. And that, combined with the hate this album gets, It kind of makes me want to like root for it and praise it. But also, I know that this album isn't really that good. I know I didn't give it a very high score. I know that it has a few tracks I didn't like. I really didn't like. It's weird. I guess I like this album. Not very strongly, mind you, but there's something about it that I do appreciate. It does help that it's not 80 minutes long for a change. Maybe I'll come back to this one day and give it another review. Maybe I'll find more to like about it. Maybe I'll just vibe with it more after a few extra listens. Maybe I'll have to post an updated review somewhere one day with a higher score. But I can't really say anything about that for now. Overall, I appreciate the vision of this album more than the execution, I guess you could say. I really did enjoy some of these songs, and I guess that matters more to me right now than the ones I didn't. This isn't a very good album, but it's one that I actually kind of respect in a way, if that makes sense. To me, this album is a 6.5 out of 10. I could probably just go on and on, trying to like justify the way that I feel and the rating I gave, but honestly, never mind. God, that's really quick. That's really bad. Cut to the next album. Drake goes back to his usual modern style after experimenting with house music on Honestly Nevermind. This project continues the trend of each Drake album being a little worse than the last one. We're back to the massive 80-minute runtimes again, but this time it feels like the filler is like almost all of the album now, so I really have to search for anything I like. At first, I was feeling kind of neutral towards For All the Dogs. About halfway through, it seemed like most of the album was just kind of forgettable, but it didn't feel like it was as boring as previous releases like Certified Lover Boy. My feelings changed after the halfway point, especially towards the end of the album where all of the worst tracks are found. I like to be someone who can look on the positive side, but I'm kind of struggling here. Past projects like Scorpion maybe could have been salvaged by cutting the filler and making it into a shorter album or even an EP with the songs, only the songs that I like. But here there's barely anything to work with. I guess you could make it into like a decent single if you cut almost everything from the track list. Oh god. My favorite song from this album was definitely Virginia Beach. The instrumental has an interesting vibe, the vocals are decent, and as probably the biggest Fanta fan out there, I appreciate Drake giving a shout out to the greatest fizzy drink of all time. I know that's not the most like glowing praise, but it's because I didn't love this song. I thought it was pretty good, but it could be better. It could be a lot better, but I enjoyed listening to it. Another highlight here for me was First Person Shooter, which has a good energy. It's really nice. It has a really nice switch up around halfway through, and while there were a couple of lines I didn't care about, I think the vocals were pretty good for the most part. Virginia Beach is the first track here, which I mentioned before. Then we have Amen featuring Tizo Touchdown. The piano on this song is quite nice, the vocals are fine, but the beat isn't really that interesting to me, it's just kind of slow and basic. Calling For You features 21 Savage, and honestly I didn't even realize this was a different song than the last one until like halfway through. It's just kind of whatever, and I don't really care for the spoken word stuff here. Then there's Fear of Heights. The intro has a kind of nice vibe, but it doesn't really have much of an impact. The beat is okay, but it's not really engaging, and the vocals are just fine. Daylight basically just sounds like all the other songs so far. Then we have Third Person Shooter featuring J. Cole, and the energy is good here. There's some good usage of the brief pauses. The switch up around halfway through is quite nice. The lyrics are mostly good, as I mentioned before, although there were a couple of lines I didn't care for, but yeah, there it is. IDGAF featuring Yeet has a beat that feels pretty good, and while I don't love it, it's an okay song. The beat on 7969 Santa is okay.
the synths are nice, the piano is good, but it does have some like weird vocal moments I didn't like. Then there's the big track "Slime You Out," featuring SZA, which I have heard this song before, but I don't know if I've ever heard more than like a few seconds of the song before now. The piano here is nice, but this beat feels like it doesn't like match it at all. Everything feels disjointed, and I'll be honest, you know what, I don't think I want Drake's slime. Please keep your slime away from me, Drake. Anyway, the piano opening to Bahamas Promises was good, but why is there a dog barking in my ears the whole time? This is really weird. Please stop the barking. It's very distracting, actually. Other than that, though, it's just another okay Drake song. The next track is Tried Our Best, and I've got to say, it really doesn't sound like they were trying their best here, man. Screw the World interlude sounds like it's really low quality for some reason. I mean, like, I like experimental production and distortion and stuff, but this just sounds bad. It's really just like another whatever track, though. It just exists. Drew a Picasso is especially basic and boring. Members Only featuring Party Next Door sounds really boring and annoying. As usual, Party Next Door continues to just like disappoint every time he shows up. And man, does this song feel really long. It just drags on forever. Then there's What Would Pluto Do?, which is another slow, boring song in a line of other slow, boring songs. And man, I'm getting really tired of slow songs now. It's whatever. I don't care for the vocals here. Next is All the Parties featuring Chief Keef. Meh, I don't know. I got nothing. The piano on 8 a.m. in Charlotte is quite nice, and I like the backing vocals here, but there are some really goofy lyrics on this track. For example, could tell I'm getting under your skin like an orange peel. It's gonna feel like you sitting at your favorite restaurant, cause that's where you dying at. Get it? Cause it sounds kind of like dining, and that's why you got deserted like pudding cake. What are we doing here? What are these lyrics? Moving on. The next track is BBL Love interlude. Just no. Just no. No. Moving on. The next song is Gently featuring Bad Bunny. The intro beat actually felt like a decent change of pace and vibe for this album, but I really didn't like the vocals at all. And like, sure, it wasn't great, but at least it had like the beat going for it. But then it switches up to the fucking dancehall beat. Oh my god, I hate this song. I hate it. I hate this song, man. It is thankfully short though. Then it's and I can't believe I'm saying this into a microphone right now, but the next song is called Rich Baby Daddy. Oh, featuring SZA and Sexy Red. I don't know Sexy Red, but based on this song alone, I think I've decided that I don't want to ever listen to her voice again. The beat actually has a good energy to it, but the vocals totally ruin the song for me, except for SZA. SZA's voice does sound nice, at least. I had to... So, I'll give it that. I had to take a break from this album after this song. It really was just that bad, man. It was so bad. I had to just like walk away for a bit. Whew. Another Late Night featuring Lil Yachty is up next. I did say earlier that I know Lil Yachty and I have listened to his stuff. He's not my like favorite rapper or anything, but I think he has some good stuff. And I really liked his weird like psychedelic rock album Let's Start Here from It's a couple years ago now. That was an incredible project. Now, the beat is pretty good on this song, but sadly, I wasn't really feeling the vocals here. And I don't think I really cared for Lil Yachty's performance here, which is a real shame. Away from Home and Polar Opposites are both fine. I didn't have anything to say about them really. They're both just listenable at best, and I don't care for either of them. And that's the end of the album. My least favourite track was Gently. This track has an alright intro, but immediately after, everything just falls apart. You know why I hate this song. I do not like dancehall. The beat was annoying, the rest of the instrumental did nothing for me, and I don't like the vocals at all, and I just really hated this song. Rich Baby Daddy was another of my least favourites. The instrumental here was pretty good, like I said before. I like the energy of it, and I think SZA sounds good. My problem with it really just comes down to the other feature. Like I say, I'm not familiar with Sexy Red, and you know what? After hearing this song, I do not want to be familiar with Sexy Red. I could go the rest of my life without hearing her voice again, and I would be very happy about that. Overall, I did not like this album. I do still want to point out that it's not all bad. I did like a few songs here, although not really that much, all things considered, but at least I did enjoy them. Most songs on this release are just kind of there. They aren't good, but they aren't bad either, and I just don't really have strong feelings about a lot of this project's material. The bad stuff here is pretty bad though, and that combined with the long runtime makes this album such an unpleasant listening experience. There's worse stuff out there, but that doesn't mean that this is good. It's a 4.7 out of 10 for me. Now we've reached the moment we've all been waiting for. The big feud that inspired this comparison video in the first place. The whole reason I'm even here. It's time to look at all of the singles involved in the beef. So I did a little research online to find out what people consider to be like relevant material to the topic. I'm listening to them in a chronological order. The tracks I've gone with are Like That, Push-Ups, Euphoria, 616 in LA, Family Matters, Meet the Grahams, Not Like Us, and The Heart Part 6. When I was researching, I saw that Drake also had a track called Tailor-Made Freestyle, but apparently that has AI vocals on it. So I have decided to just disqualify that from the competition and not listen to it. So we'll start with Like That. And from the research I've done, it seems like this is like where the back and forth diss tracks between the two of them like started. And it's an interesting place to start, considering this is really a Future and Metro Boomin track first and foremost, with Kendrick also getting an inclusion on here too. First of all, I clarify that I don't really know anything about the other two artists on this song, and that is a bit awkward for me because it kind of feels weird to just like check out one single without listening to like their other stuff as well. But I'm really just reviewing this from like the perspective of the whole Kendrick versus Drake thing, so I don't really want to like listen to two other artists' entire discographies just to get some context. That being said, I have taken the whole song into consideration for my rating here, not just Kendrick's section. So what did I think of this track? Well, I think it's good. It's a solid song for sure. Personally, it didn't really click with me all that much. If I'm being honest, only the Kendrick parts really stood out to me. And it's a great part, but the rest of the song is just alright. I think my biggest criticism for this song is that I didn't really like that one horn-sounding synth you can hear throughout the track. It feels like a really outdated synth you would hear in like a 90s video game or something. Like it's not terrible, but it does kind of take me out of the vibe of this song, if you get what I mean. Other than that, though, it is a fun song. It's enjoyable to listen to, and I quite like it. I just think it could have been better. It's a 7 out of 10 song, in my opinion. Drake then responds with his track Push Ups, and I think it's a pretty good start to his side of the feud. The beat sounds great, I like the bass especially, the piano is really cool, and Drake has a good flow here. The song has a good progression to it, and the lyrics feel really well put together. Honestly, I'd say this is a pretty good response to Like That, all things considered. This is a fun track, and it's immediately better than anything I heard on For All the Dogs. Like, if Drake is still capable of making songs this good, why isn't he putting any of them on his albums? And anyway, that stuff aside, this is a very good track. It's a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Kendrick's response to Drake's push-ups in the form of Euphoria is basically the perfect comeback. I don't think there's anything here I can criticize. The song has a really smooth and beautiful intro which transitions into a surprisingly chill instrumental. It sounds fantastic and I really enjoy that section, but when it transitions into like part 2 of the song, it does an excellent job of like really grabbing my attention with a new beat, which feels very different and very impactful. There are some great lines on this track. Kendrick has an amazing flow, and then the transition into part 3 is fantastic. The progression of the song is just incredible in general. If Drake had won any points for his side of the beef on push-ups, he basically loses all of them here. Kendrick really knew how to respond, and he pulled it off perfectly. This is a 10 out of 10 track in my opinion. Then we have another one from Kendrick, 616 in LA, which has a really smooth intro. The beat is very fun, it has a good progression, and Kendrick sounds great here. I don't think this song is quite as good as Euphoria, but it's still amazing. Honestly, this is a 9 out of 10 song in my opinion. Drake then makes his next response with Family Matters, and it's a pretty decent track, although I'm not sure if I would call this an incredibly effective counter to what Kendrick had put out. The drums here feel impactful in part 1 of the song, and Drake does have a great flow throughout this whole track, but personally, I did think the instrumental in part 1 could have been a little more interesting songwriting wise. When the song transitions into part 2, I found it to be a bit abrupt and disjointed. I think that section could have been done better. The beat it introduces does sound really good though, although I would like to mention that the gunshot sound effects that show up a couple times here just kind of come off as really corny and cheesy to me. Like, I don't know about that. The transition into part 3 of this track feels much better than that previous transition. I thought it was very well done, but on the other hand, I think the verse in this part is a little weaker than the ones before it. That all being said, I do think this is the ending of the song is quite good, and it does a fine job of tying everything together. I don't think Drake did a bad job here, but I also don't think this track is good enough for me to like think of him as being like ahead of Kendrick when it comes to this feud. When I compare Family Matters to Euphoria, for example, I just can't deny that although this is a good song, Euphoria was both a better song and a better comeback, at least in my opinion. It is still enjoyable though, so I'd say it's a 7 out of 10. Meet the Grahams is the moment Kendrick won. I mean, I'm not sure how I can really see it any other way. This track is just so good in so many ways that I really don't think it's possible to have a good enough response to it, no matter how hard Drake might try. The intro here is really punchy and impactful. The piano hits hard. I really like the distinct and unique style of it. The lyrics here are powerful and engaging. Kendrick kept my attention all the way through without issue, and the way he delivers these lines is perfect, and I was seriously impressed by how relentless he was being in what he had to say here. In context of the feud, this is the best possible response to something like Family Matters. Even out of context, this is just an amazing song all around, and I have nothing to criticize here. 10 out of 10. Not Like Us. The song from the feud, so big, it somehow even got my attention when it dropped, and for very good reason. This was the first Kendrick song I listened to, and I was immediately a huge fan of it. Even as a complete outsider to his music and the beef in general, if I hadn't randomly heard about this song when it was blowing up, I'm not sure I ever would have checked out Kendrick's albums. So, let's talk about the song itself now. It's perfect. Kendrick had already won the feud with Meet the Grahams, and this is basically like the celebration after. The beat here is iconic, memorable, catchy, and just all around amazing. The vocals are incredible, the lyrics hit hard. The flow here is amazing too. It's a song that's very engaging, impactful, and just really fun to listen to. There are certain moments in pop culture and media which transcend the individual's interests and hobbies. Moments in history that are just so big, they pierce through the bubbles we spend most of our time in. This is one of those things. One of those moments that could get everyone's attention, whether you were a hardcore hip-hop fan, just casually interested, or even completely isolated from it. Good song, 10 out of 10. It seems that the agreed upon ending to the feud was with Drake's The Heart Part 6. This song feels much weaker than his other tracks in this feud. The flow feels unimpactful and unengaging, and as a response it feels very weak. There's really just no coming back from the back-to-back destruction delivered by Kendrick on those last two songs. It doesn't help that this song also just isn't really that good when viewed in isolation. It feels desperate, and the spoken word outro where he acts like he won is really cringy. I feel like, I'm not at all an expert here, so take this how you will, but I feel like the point of a back and forth feud like this is to push your opponent into doing something. You don't necessarily need to have the greatest song to win, but rather you need to have one that's both very good and makes good points. And by making good points, you then force the other person into a response. And I think Drake does a good job of this at first, but Kendrick is more consistent. It's like Kendrick says what he says on Like That, which pushes Drake to respond with push-ups, and what on push-ups is impactful and meaningful enough to the point where it pushes Kendrick to hit back with another track. This then goes back and forth until The Heart Part 6, where Drake just fails to make any good points and the song flops because of this. He may have had the final response, but I view that as the defeat, because Kendrick wasn't pushed to respond, if that makes sense. What Drake says on this track isn't worth responding to in the first place, and therefore, because he wasn't pushed to respond, Kendrick wins. Or at least that's how I see it. Anyway, this song is a 4 out of 10. Well, that's the end of the beef section of this video. Now we'll take a look at what albums both artists have put out since then. GNX is an absolutely fantastic listening experience, one that definitely feels on a similar level of quality to Kendrick's other albums, and although I don't think it was absolutely perfect, I had such a good time listening to it, and the dips in quality are very rare, as well as not being that significant. I just think the songs here are all really good. Most of them are incredible, but a couple do feel weaker than the rest. My favourite track here was probably Reincarnated. It has a very captivating intro, the instrumental and beat is really cool. Kendrick has some intense vocals here, and I enjoyed it a lot. The chorus is fantastic, the progression of the track is really interesting, and the second half of this song is so much fun to listen to. A few other big highlights I'd like to mention are Whacked Out Murals, Squabble Up, Luther, TV Off, Heart Part 6, and Gloria. All incredible tracks for various different reasons. We start this project with Whacked Out Murals. This is actually one of the songs I've heard before, I think. It has an interesting intro which grabbed my attention immediately. The Progression is good, the bass sounds amazing here, the drums are cool, and Kendrick sounds great. Squabble Up is next, and it has a really engaging intro. The beat sounds impactful, the sample here is really cool, the instrumental progression is amazing, and the scream at 2 minutes 17 was crazy. As a metal fan, I could always appreciate a good scream. Then we have Luther with SZA, and this song has a really smooth and vibey beat. I really like it, and I love SZA's vocals here. And this track just has some really nice vocal harmonies. Man at the Garden has these really cool reverse drums, the minimalist beat here is great, the vibe is amazing, the backing vocals are beautiful, and I love how the intensity grows towards the end. Next is Hey Now featuring Dodie 6. The instrumental here is really cool, I love the breathy sound it uses. Kendrick sounds great here. The instrumental has a cool progression, and Dodie 6 contributes very well to the song. Reincarnated is another track that I have heard before in the past. It has a really captivating intro, very cool instrumental and beat, and Kendrick has some really intense vocals here. The lyrical content and topic of this song are great, and it just feels like a really impactful song. Then we have TV Off, which features Lefty Gunplay. I've heard part of this song somewhere before, but never the whole thing. It has a really smooth and impactful intro. Kendrick's flow is really engaging. I really enjoyed the chorus, and the progression is very interesting. I also wanted to mention that the second half of this song was really good. Dodger Blue features Wally the Sensei, Roddy Ricch, and C7X. I'm not sure. C7X? I'm not sure. I'm just gonna give up and move on. But anyway, I love the beats and bass here. The song is really smooth and vibey. The vocals on this track are also fantastic all around. Peekaboo featuring As Cheek. Wait, is it supposed to be Ass Cheek? Okay, I'll just move on. Anyway, this song has a great transition from the last track. The beat is really good, but to be honest, I'm not really loving the constant repeating of the title. The lyrics feel a little too repetitive for me in general on this track. It's an enjoyable song. I think it's still very good, but I don't love this one as much. Heart Part 6 has a beautiful acoustic guitar intro which transitions suddenly but very well into a really cool beat. The chorus also sounds amazing. I just really enjoy the vocals here. I realize that there's like a whole series of different parts of this, like Heart series, but for whatever reason, Part 6 is the only one that's included on an album, so that's the only one I'm reviewing here. The title track is up next, and it features Hitter J3, Young Threat, and Peso. The instrumental is interesting, but I feel like it could have been a little bit more impactful. While I appreciate the more experimental beat on this track, it's not one of my favorites from this album. Peso sounds pretty good, I think he has a good verse. I really like Hitter J3's part though. Young Threat, on the other hand, does a good job, but the line "Get on my Bob the Builder shit" is just way too goofy for me not to laugh at. This is one of the slightly weaker songs from this project, but I still like it. Gloria with SZA is the final song from this album. It has a really smooth and nice sounding instrumental. The vocals here from both Kendrick and SZA are great, and it's just such an incredible song. My least favorite track here was probably Peekaboo, even though it seems like the title track G and X seems to actually be by far the least popular from this project. Personally, I just found that the lyrics felt a little bit too repetitive for me. Like I said, I wasn't really a huge fan of the constant repeating of the title throughout the song, and it's just not one of my favorites from Kendrick. Speaking of the title track, G and X, I'd be lying if I said I didn't understand why many don't seem to care for that one. For me, it's my second least favorite. It's on the same level of quality as Peekaboo, in my opinion. It's a fun song, but I did have a couple of issues with it. Overall, though, I loved this album. There might be a couple of slightly weak moments here and there, but everything else was a perfect 10 out of 10, so I can't really be that upset about the few criticisms I had for this project. There's so much amazing music to be heard here. I just enjoyed listening to this release a lot. With 2 8 out of 10 songs and 10 out of 10 songs, I'd say this is an extremely solid project. Great stuff. It's a 9.6 out of 10 in my opinion. And so now we're done with Kendrick's part of this video. I've listened to all of his albums currently released, and so we're just left with Drake. We have 3 whole Drake albums in a row now, so try to prepare yourself for what's ahead. HABIBTI is the first Drake album where I didn't like anything. Not a single song. At best, the music on this project was listenable, and at worst, it was unbearable. I didn't enjoy listening to this album at all. There's almost nothing here for me to compliment, and even the few good things about this release weren't really that good anyway. I will say this though, at least it's short. My favourite track, if you can even call it a favourite when I still didn't even like it, was probably Slap the City. The most I can say about the song is that it sounds fine. It's not good, not bad, it's just fine. The chorus is kind of nice though, so it has that going for it. Otherwise, it's not really engaging, but it's not off-putting either, I guess. There's also the track Classic, which has an intro that sounds kind of vibey, and while the vocals can be awkward, I don't think they're that bad. The song structure feels disjointed though. We start with Rusty intro, which is the most generic sounding thing I've heard in a long time. I swear I've heard this exact melody somewhere else. I'm just not sure where. Also, what is happening with all of these sound effects? I mean, like, it goes from like basic, boring, whatever, to like just a complete mess, and they throw in so many sound effects. What is happening? This track is just fucking dog shit, man. It's so bad. I don't like to be super negative, but that's just how I feel right now, man. The vibe on the track WNBA feels off. It's like the song feels like it was recorded normally and then they sped it up to 2 times speed during production, and now everything just feels weird. The beat is unimpactful and unengaging. I do not like how Drake sounds on the track at all, and the beat switch up does not help. Slap the City sounds fine, as I said earlier. It's not good, not bad either. High Fives has these really annoying like chipmunk voice noises in the background the whole time, and Drake's vocals are also annoying. It's like I'm listening to a bad Drake song, but at the same time, all the characters from Alvin and the Chipmunks are screaming in the next room over. This song is just straight up aggravating to listen to. It's awful. Her Nor There with Sexy Red. Is this all Sexy Red sings about? Because she's not very good at it. The lyrics are awful. The beat is boring. Drake sucks here too the whole time. I just wanted him to just shut up, man. Sexy Red, I guess, sounds less annoying on this song than the last one I heard her on, but that's not saying much because she's still annoying here anyway. It's various degrees of annoying. Next is I'm Spent with Low Shimmy. Why does Low Shimmy sound like the nerd emoji? His voice is really bad. I mean, the instrumental is kind of nice. I like the piano, but too bad the vocals are atrocious. The lyrics are also really bad here, like really bad. I mean it when I say there are these are like some of the worst lyrics I've heard so far in Drake's entire discography. It is funny though. They are funny lyrics, I'll give him that. The intro to Classic is kind of vibey, and while the vocals are a bit awkward, they're not too bad. The song structure is kind of disjointed though. Gen 5 has a simple but fine beat, and the refrain at the end has some nice vocals actually. That being said, the rest of the vocals are really annoying, and I found the song generally boring. White Bones instrumental during the intro was kind of nice, but the beat is just kind of unengaging. I don't enjoy the vocals, so this song just ends up being boring and it feels like it drags. Next is Fort Worth with Party Next Door. The opening instrumental is good, but Drake's vocals are awkward and unengaging, and Party Next Door's verse is not good at all. The line, "She don't even want my children, she just want an Audi," is something else, man. What were they cooking? Prioritizing is the whole thing is just boring and disjointed, and these lyrics are terrible. Just to quote a couple lines here, a good job is like Waldo. You don't know where to find him. How many matchas can you consume in a day? Oh my god, man. Oh my god. Oh, my least favorite song was definitely between Her Not There and I'm Spent. I don't know much about Sexy Red, as I have said before. And I do realize her name has the word sexy in it. But is this all she sings about? Does she ever talk about anything other than sex? Even with that aside, it's not like she does it well. I'm not typically like a huge fan of like this kind of subject matter in music. It's not something I like gravitate towards, but like at least other artists like know how to do it well. Like, what is the point of her? What is the point of Sexy Red if she can't do the one thing she's here for? The one thing she does. She doesn't do it well. My dislike for Sexy Red aside, this song was just awful anyway. It's just really bad. Then there's, of course, I'm Spent. Oh, wow. I mean, Lotion, he really does just sound like he's doing an impression of the nerd emoji, man. What was he doing? What was he doing on this? And you know, what is Drake doing here? No, seriously, what is he doing? The lyrics are genuinely terrible. I'm just going to read this part out loud. I'm just going to read this part. Homer diamonds sitting on my broken heart. Swear I blew your head up. I should call you Marge. Made me want to lease a yacht in St. Bart's. I was genuinely baffled beyond belief when I heard this shit. Why are we doing Simpsons references now? Blew your head up sounds like blue, the color, and Marge Simpson has blue hair, so we're just throwing her name in the song now? Lisa, and St. Bart's to name drop Bart and Lisa Simpson? These are some of the worst lyrics I think I've ever heard in my life, man. At least they're really funny though. I can't like something. Speaking of funny, the line "You fucking on a salve just like Big Mama" was so stupid sounding. I couldn't help but burst out laughing so loud I was concerned the people like next door would hear me. The song is beyond parody. It's just so fucking funny, man. I don't know what else to say.
This album is terrible. It has a couple of small little redeeming qualities, but they don't make up for everything else. Like I said before, at least it's short, and I did get a few good laughs out of it. I don't know. This album is a 3.2 out of 10. ICEMAN is an album. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. Weirdly enough, I think I actually prefer this as like a listening experience compared to other Drake albums I've like rated slightly higher, like Certified Lover Boy, for example, and maybe even Scorpion. Because despite such projects all being very long and not very good, Iceman is incredibly inoffensive. I didn't hate any song here. There's only one song I genuinely disliked, and while there were also only two songs I slightly liked, most of it was just kind of forgettable and okay to listen to. Albums like Scorpion and Certified Lover Boy, like I mentioned before, definitely have higher highs, but they also have lower lows. So despite everything, Iceman actually doesn't feel like as much of a chore to listen to from start to finish. It's still not good though. My favourite song from this album was probably Make Them Cry. The instrumental is decent, quite enjoyable even. There's some pretty good lyrical content here, aside from that one line where Drake name drops Dora the Explorer for some reason. I really need this guy to stop making references to cartoons on what are like otherwise serious songs. I cannot take this seriously, man. Anyway, I think the biggest issue I have with this song is that I don't really care for Drake's flow here. It's just not really doing that much to keep me engaged. And the song does have a good progression, so I'll give it that. But you know, it's just kind of fine. It's not really special, but I like it well enough. I started listening to this album not long after HABIBTI. Which is a really bad decision because I was already in a bad mood. So about 30 seconds into the first song, I had to just like turn it off because I had just suddenly developed a headache and I couldn't take anymore. So I stopped listening. I came back to it the next day, feeling refreshed. Make Them Cry, the opening track here, has a decent instrumental. It's already mentioned the goofy Dora the Explorer line before. I do want to say though that the beat switch around 2 minutes into the track was really good actually. The opening beat on Dust is decent, it feels impactful, then it switches beat for the chorus, and while I'm not as much of a fan of it, it's still fine. The vocals weren't really doing much for me though, and I don't know, they just weren't great. Although the bass does sound good here, we'll give it that. Whisper My Name has an instrumental that sounds nice, but the vocals feel unengaging to me, and this song has some really silly lyrics. The outro does have a nice vibe though. Janice STFU has a fine beat, but the vocals are just kind of annoying, and I don't really care for this song's chorus. Then we have Ran to Atlanta with Future and Molly Santana. The instrumental has a good amount of energy, the vocals are decent, and the song is actually kind of fun. I didn't enjoy the second half of this track as much, but it's still okay. Sadly though, Molly Santana kind of ruined this song for me. She sounds really annoying, to be honest. I really don't like her inclusion here. Shebang is a song that just kind of exists. I don't know why, but I find the chorus really funny. Like, it's just the line Manish on the beat, shebang. It's just very silly sounding. So I kind of chuckled every time he said it. The instrumental on Make Them Pay is kind of a vibe. And while there are some clunky lyrics here, the vocals are mostly enjoyable. It's not bad. Burning Bridges sounds fine. There's nothing really noteworthy about it, aside from a good beat switch after the opening, though. Then there's National Treasures, which has a good energy, impactful beat, and fun vocals. The progression is also decent here. Bees on the Table with 21 Savage is just forgettable.
What Did I Miss has some decent instrumental moments, but I didn't care for the vocals really. And when it comes to plot twists, okay, I'm running out of things to say about these songs, man. I don't know. It's whatever. Next up is Too Hard for the Radio, and I'm sorry, but nothing Drake has ever done is too hard for the radio. I mean, seriously, his whole thing is making radio-friendly pop rap. Like there is, I don't think there's a single Drake track that couldn't be played on the radio. Other than that, it's just kind of whatever. It's a boring song. It's fine, whatever. Make Them Remember is most notable for its really goofy lyrics, like before you say toodaloo of the shit that keep popping up on your Google News, damn and fuck a Billboard #1, man. Whoop-de-doo. I swear I'm going loony over tunes. And all you really did was cap like uppercase. Never cook again. Never cook again. Oh my god. The vocals sound really weird on Little Birdie, and it has these explosion sound effects that are just bad. Other than that, it's basically just like the same as every other song here. Don't Worry is especially boring and kind of annoying. It just drags on forever, and I was practically just like begging for it to end. I don't like it. Yeah. Firm Friends and Make Them Know. I've got nothing for these two. The outro of Make Them Know is kind of nice. That's it. That's all I've got. My least favourite here was definitely Don't Worry. I'm not exactly sure what it is about this song, but I just found it to be especially boring and kind of annoying to listen to. It feels like it drags on forever, and I just, like I said, I was just like practically begging for it to just be over, like halfway through. Everything else on this track list was completely fine, I guess. I just didn't really have any strong feelings one way or the other. Overall, this is music. I don't like most of it, but I don't dislike it either. There are a couple of slight highlights and a single slight dip in quality, but this whole album is just really forgettable. After listening to this for over an hour, all I can really say is that I felt pretty neutral the whole time. This album was a 5 out of 10. So basically, I need an official instrumental version of this album. Not every track has a good beat, but holy shit, so many of these tracks have really cool instrumentals. The vibe here definitely reminds me of Honestly Nevermind, in that we see the style lean more towards the EDM, house, techno, dance music side of things, and that's a pretty positive way to start off a review for an album that I hate. But there is a reason that I hate it, and it is the vocals. Oh my god, I cannot believe how horrible the vocals are on this album. Almost every single track here is ruined single-handedly by bad vocals and lyrics. I cannot stand the vocal performances on this project. In fact, immediately after listening to this album, I found an instrumental version of the whole thing on YouTube, and I listened to the entire album again without vocals. And it's so much better this way. Hell, I'll even show like the ratings I would have given these songs if they were instrumentals at the end of this little album review. Just by removing vocals from this project, the total score leaps from a terrible to a great album. Not a perfect one, but still really good. So that's why, on top of just how genuinely difficult and awful to listen to some of these songs are, I find myself so frustrated with this album. You don't even necessarily need to make it an instrumental album for it to be good. I'm sure you could do some good vocals over top of these instead,
But certainly the simplest fix for this project in my eyes would be to just like take them out. Without these vocals, Maid of Honor would be up there with the best Drake albums. But with them, it's by far his worst. My favourite song from this release was definitely Road Trips, which I actually did somewhat enjoy, even with the vocals. The instrumental is really fun, I like the intro especially, and while I find the lyrics to be a bit too repetitive for me, and I'm just not a really big fan of the performance from Drake here. I think the song's vibe is alright. It's a fine track. It's not bad. So let's look at the whole album. The synths on the opening song, Ho Phase, are nice, but the constantly repeating vocal sample is really annoying here. Drake's vocals don't interest me at all, and I really hate the vocals. The instrumental is pretty good actually, the vocals just ruin it. Then there's Road Trips, which I talked about just a minute ago. After that is Outside Tweaking with Stunner Sandy. The opening beat is decent, the instrumental sounds great when the beat switches up, and again, I hate these vocals, they totally ruin the song. The instrumental outro does sound really nice though. Cheetah Print with Sexy Red. Good beat, it sounds nice. But guess what? The vocals and lyrics are fucking awful. Also, it randomly starts like interpolating the fucking Cha Cha Slide song in the second half, and it's terrible, man. I genuinely hate everything Sexy Red does. Oh my god, it's so bad. Which One with Central C is next? I actually didn't even like the instrumental here. It's just a terrible song and I hate everything about it. Then there's Amazing Shape with Pop Can, which has a bad beat, bad vocals, bad lyrics, and it's just bad. It's so bad. BBW has a good instrumental. I like the bass. But then again, that's the only thing I like about it, because the vocals are horrible. It uses this really awkward text-to-speech for some reason, and the second half of this song is just an unbelievable disaster. Genuinely, I don't know how anyone thought this was good. True Bestie with Iconic Savvy has another cool instrumental that's ruined by the vocals. Sexy Red 2, I mean Iconic Savvy, sounds awful and I hate her vocals. Where's Your Stuff interlude has some really annoying spoken word over what would otherwise be a really nice piano piece. Like, seriously, just shut up and let me listen to the piano, goddammit. Then there's New Bestie, which has boring verses and a really annoying chorus. The beat isn't really that interesting in the first half, and then it's like straight up annoying in the second half. Q&A has this really weird, annoying, constantly repeating vocal sample in the background, which just sounds like somebody like saying ba 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 ba. I don't know why they would add that. It's really annoying. It's awful. Yeah, I hate the vocals, but the song does have a decent instrumental. Then there's Stuck, which has a groovy and fun instrumental, but again, I do not like the vocals at all. Goose and the Juice, good instrumental. I like the energy it has. I do not enjoy the vocals. Finish the album with Princess, which has an instrumental that feels very different and really cool, but the vocals are horrendous again. Yeah, anyway, that's the last song. We're done here. My least favorite track was Amazing Shape, which I also didn't like, even without the vocals. The beat is just plain bad. I really don't enjoy listening to it. The vocals and the lyrics are some of the worst on this album, and I really just can't come up with much to say about it other than it's just really, 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 really bad. It's truly awful. Another contender for worst song here, in my opinion, was Q&A because of that really annoying sample I mentioned before. And I also want to comment on Cheetah Print, which is another terrible song with Sexy Red on it. She sounds awful like she does on every song I've heard her in. The beat is good, the bass is really nice, but the vocals and lyrics are awful, and I can't stand listening to Sexy Red. Oh god, after this video, I genuinely hope to never hear her voice again. Alright, so now we're at the end, like I promised.
Here are the track ratings with vocals compared to the tracks without vocals. You might notice those are some really different scores. So many wasted instrumentals, man. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. Overall, this album is a disaster. There are so many things wrong with it, and I genuinely had a miserable time listening to this. I hate the vocals here so much. Even the best vocal performance on this project isn't very good. Road Trip's mostly being carried by just how good the instrumental is. I am begging Drake to release an official instrumental version of this album on streaming platforms so that I can add all of these songs except Which One, Amazing Shape and New Besties to my library and listen to them happily without the vocals, man. That would be so nice. That would be so nice. Anyway, score. I give this album 2.7 out of 10. We're finally done. We're at the end of this really long journey. I've listened to every Drake and every Kendrick album and given my in-depth thoughts along the way. It has not been a fun day for the hardcore Drake fans, and I don't think I really need to tell you who I preferred out of the two artists. But really, the video was never seriously about pitting these artists against each other. That was just like a fun premise for the video. The actually interesting part, I feel, was really just like being able to explore a little more of this genre and to be able to discuss my thoughts and feelings on each album throughout this video as somebody who hadn't heard them before. So no matter if you're a massive fan of Kendrick or Drake or both, I hope you enjoyed this video and found at least some of what I had to say to be interesting. Normally I do a tier list sort of thing at the end of my videos, but today we've got two. One for the beef singles, the feud singles, and one for the albums. I'll go ahead and show the first one on screen now. I went ahead and calculated the overall scores for these charts as well. And when it comes to the singles, Drake scored a 6.3 out of 10 overall, and Kendrick scored a 9.2 out of 10. Now here are the albums, and it's largely like the same sort of pattern really. Drake scored a 6 out of 10, and Kendrick scored a massive 9.8 out of 10. And that's basically all I have to say. Sure, I have my preference out of the two, but I don't want to overlook the fun I've had listening to both of them. Even though I had some not so great experiences with Drake's recent projects, I did really enjoy his earlier stuff, and I think that he has the potential to put out some amazing stuff. Some of it even on the same level as Kendrick, even if I don't think Drake is as good as at making full albums. At the end of the day though, it's all just for a bit of fun, so try not to take this video too seriously. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out some of my other ones. I've made a few about various different artists. I did one where I listened to every Taylor Swift album, so that was interesting, and I did a couple where I go over every album by a couple of different metal bands, which is more my area of expertise, I guess you could say. Either way, I put a lot of effort into those videos, so give them a watch if you're interested. Then there's the series I call Last Month in Music, where I talk about all of the new music I listened to over the last month. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I enjoy doing it, so if you want to hear what I have to say about brand new releases from 2026, as well as some classics that I personally listened to recently, check out that series. There should be a new episode every month, so you can look forward to the next one, which will release sometime in August. I also have another YouTube channel where I put my own music that I make myself, which is also available on streaming services like Spotify and YouTube Music. If you really want to find some more reviews by me, I have an Album of the Year profile where I post written reviews. I don't go into as much detail there as I do in these videos, but There are a lot of reviews to read if you're interested, including written reviews for all of the albums and singles discussed in this video. Okay, aside from a couple of the singles, because they didn't all have pages on Album of the Year for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. I guess because they weren't official single anyway. But yeah, most of the stuff is there, as well as a lot of other stuff. So check that out. Now that I'm done relentlessly advertising to you, the video is basically over. See you next time.